Happy Friday, everybody. Chicago Hockey Radio, Justin Lynch, Tassos Kirkos, Raven Gasser. Day off for Lee Grossman. Welcome in. Chicago Blackhawks edition of Chicago Hockey Radio. It's the end of the week here, although not so much for the Blackhawks. They take on the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow. They lose in Vegas yesterday. I appropriately titled this show the 32-car pileup in Vegas. And welcome in. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram at Chicago Hockey Radio. Leave a 5-star rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And next Wednesday, we are at Midwest Coast Brewing doing a live stream of the game against the Ottawa Senators. The RSVP link is in the description of this episode. So maybe if you haven't known your schedule quite yet for next week, if you didn't really know up until right now if you could make the show or not, RSVP. We are super excited for that. Lee showed off the drawstring bags we will be giving away to all CHR enjoyers in attendance. And yeah, that's kind of all I got. Hawks lose last night 7-5 to the Vegas Golden Knights. They take on the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow as they continue this Western Conference road swing before returning home next week. Justin, we got you in studio, brother.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. I mean, normally Fridays are like, it's never a bad day to be Friday. But, man, this Friday, I don't know if I'm feeling it, man. After last night's game, it was pretty brutal. Absolute asses, they would say. It was fun to live stream it at least. I mean, the games we live stream, the shit always goes down. It certainly did last night for sure. But, yeah, kind of a game that sort of sums up our season here. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's a low-scoring snooze fest like the Utah game or a back-and-forth ping-pong game like last night against Vegas. The result of the same, the Hawks get narrowly edged. 5-game losing streak right now, which is, I believe, the longest losing streak we've had all season. But we have opportunity coming up here on Saturday against the Anaheim Ducks to hopefully snap out of that. I mean, if you can't beat the Anaheim Ducks, I don't know who you're going to be at this rate. So I look at tomorrow's game as hopefully one where the Hawks can get something going here, get a much needed morale victory, and get Bedard out of this slump. But we'll get into it.
We will indeed. Just a reminder, we have Robert Babiak, hockey content creator and minor pro soccer team owner, ironically enough. But he will be joining us in the NHL hour of this show as the NHL trade deadline is 1 week from today. We will be narrowing down our, trade deadline coverage, what exactly we're going to do. I'd like to start next Friday's show, maybe just as the trade deadline is coming to an end. Okay. So that way, when things start trickling in here, there's always a couple of deals that, come in right at the very end and sometimes aren't finalized until after the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. So, looking forward to that. Next week's going to be a really fun week. We're going to Kalamazoo on Sunday, too. Everybody's piling into Lee's mom's van, and we're heading down to Kalamazoo at 8 in the morning here. Get in the van. So that way we can get down and watch the K-Wings in some exciting ECHL
playing
action.
The Fort Wayne Comets, is that correct?
I think so.
Absolute barn burner that should be. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, there will be a vlog from that. I need to talk to Holt today, actually, make sure what kind of camera we're allowed to bring in there. But there will be a vlog coming out for that next week, hopefully. And obviously the live show and all that fun stuff too. So should be a ton of fun. All right.
Much more entertaining than Blackhawks hockey, that's for sure.
Yeah, I hope so. Today is also Friday, so we're going to answer questions at the end of the Hawks hour, at the end of this hour before heading to break. So let's start with some clips here. Let's hear from the coach, honestly. Let's just start from the beginning on the loss last night to the Vegas Golden Knights.
But yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, the first period, we're down 5-1, but we had some chances. The scoring chances were actually even after the first, and we're down 5-1. Say what you want about that, right? But and then obviously, I thought we had a little push, turn the tide a little bit, and but gave up too much, obviously.
It seemed like some fantastic insight there from Anders. Yeah, I mean, it was a 5-1 after the first period, but it wasn't that bad of a period because the chances were even. Well, it's like, what about the quality of the chances here? Why do you think it was 5-1? So, I mean, as usual, not really getting much from Sorensen. So, making excuses for this team's poverty, I suppose. Not really giving us much info in terms of how that happened, why. A lot of questions with this Hawks team, not a lot of answers. Yeah.
I know it was 7-5 at the very end, and I know they made it close, and it's a 6-5 game at one point before the one goes in off Seth Jones and into the net. Like Lee said, it was like the most uninspiring, like close game that you could have imagined. And I was really, thanks to everyone also who joined the live stream last night. But I was saying on the live stream, like I wanted it to be like 10-1.
Yeah.
Like I wanted them to get
just
absolutely
have a statement game that just kind of sets the tone and kind of maybe starts sort of like a big moves at the trade deadline type of deal where changes are made. But like a 7-5 game where you lose by 2 goals probably isn't gonna create that. Like I would say it was kind of like the Utah game as well, where the scoreboard was close, but like was it really a close game? I don't think so. I mean, I think Samsonov being asked was a big part of why we sort of got back in that game. But at the same time, how many times have we seen that this season where the Hawks like give you hope of a comeback, but they're never able to finish the deal? And it's like unless you're able to kind of do that, like I don't really care, right? Like you gotta close the deal, like complete the comeback, and they weren't able to do that, and that's kind of been a theme all season. So I'm not really gonna give them a ton of credit for that.
No, neither am I.
Yeah.
Honestly, like you're not going to win. That's why it's like, it doesn't even make sense to like come back in this game. That's why I wanted it to be 10-1, because you're never going to win a hockey game when you're down 5-1 after one. Like that is just, and I want, like, what is it going to take for Anders or anybody really, a player on the team, to come out and say,
just be honest.
like, hey, that stunk. Like that was brutal. We were terrible. Not like it was 5-1 after one. Like, I don't want to hear, oh, well, the chances were even, like, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah, the scoreboard, buddy.
You're playing Vegas.
Yeah.
Like, you're playing the Vegas Golden Knights, who are a thorough Stanley Cup contender through and through, and you're just getting worked by them, like whether you want to blame it on the goaltending, which,
Peter wasn't great. Like, were they all on him? No. Like, were there some defensive lapses there? Absolutely there were. But and Soda definitely, at least when he came in, gave us a shot. But like, that's as much of a team thing as it is like a goaltending thing. Like, set him in to send a message, and they play better in front of Soda, which this team does tend to play better in front of Soderblom this season. I don't know if there's something to be said for that, but I wouldn't really say that goaltending was the reason why we, went at 5-1 there.
No, it was a whole team thing.
Yeah.
It was a whole just mess of a first period. And I'd love for somebody to say that, actually.
Just be honest. Like, be truthful here. Like, I think we're owed that at least as fans. Yeah.
Feels like Seth Jones is the only guy we get blunt honesty from.
Yeah, and like I think it's his reasons, his circumstances are a little different because he knows where he wants to be out of here, so he's going to be more blunt about it. But the rest of the guys just not going to be that truthful, that transparent. Yeah.
So we have another clip from Sorensen on Brody, but I do actually want to go to Nazar first, if we can, just because he was talking about the same things that, he was really good last night. Can we hear the first Nazar clip, Raven?
Yeah, obviously it sucks. Them scoring that last goal off a bad bounce, and when we're that close and just kind of rolling, feeling good with each other, and happy on the bench and standing up, and then something like that goes in. It's a little demotivating, but just the resilience to put in a few goals and come back in this game. It's not easy coming back from 5-1 deficit. So just to be able to be in that game shows the resiliency we have.
I loved your game, Frank, but no, I wouldn't call that a comeback. A comeback is when you come back, right? When you're down, you tie the game, you win the game. The Hawks didn't do that. So when you're down 4 goals, it's really only up from there. So I'm not really going to give the Hawks credit for that. I think Vegas, as much as the Vegas also took their foot off the gas. When you're up 5-1, after the first against the 25 Chicago Blackhawks, you're not going to play the same way the next 2 periods. Clearly, and then, Samsonov and net too is a big part of that as well. So, but yeah, I mean, Frank Nazar, though, was a positive. He's been probably the one consistent, constant positive. Coming out of this 4 Nations break, he has, I believe 4 points in 4 games, and he gets chances every game. He had 2 assists last night. He could have easily had more production. Had a breakaway there, had a chance to maybe tie the game there. He's just, every play he's making, every shift he's making things happen, and he's constantly in motion. He's fast, He makes plays happen. I think that's something for Bedsy to kind of take notes from. It's sometimes he probably waits for things to happen. Sometimes you got to create them. So you got to get open for your line mates. I think Nazar plays in motion. That's a big part of why he's been so successful a lot, because a lot of our guys are passengers out there and just kind of waiting around for things to happen. But Nazar just creates. He's a creator. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he's been the Hawks' best player for a little while now. It's funny, clipping that today. He's definitely still on
he's a little new here. You can tell.
He's definitely still on the young guy thing of needing to talk more than he needs to, which is the word's almost cute.
Resilience. Yeah. Sure, bud. I mean, I saw resilience from him, not much of the rest of the team here.
Yeah.
But I'm impressed with Frank though. I mean, it's good. It's important to even dark times like this to take note of the positives, and he's certainly been. I think you're spot on. I don't think he's just been our best forward. I think he's been our best player coming out of this break. So that's been good to see. That's somebody you want to see, develop well. I think he's going to be a star in this league. He's got all the tools. I like to see him with Bedsy. I don't know why we gave up on that line after one game. I think those two together, like right now, make a lot of sense. But there is something to be said, though. Slager, Doc, and Nazar, have played a lot together with the Ice Hogs, so maybe that's something they're going for. Just kind of roll that line here too, and it has worked so far. Doc had a good game too, and Slager, they clearly got chemistry, but it's like I'd rather see him up there with Bedsy. I don't know, whatever.
Can we roll right into the second Nazar clip?
It's just more confidence, just getting that first half of the season under the belt, knowing that deserve to be here and can play with all these guys on the ice, and a lot of the guys in the team just being nice, talking, and make me feel comfortable. So that helps a ton. So just feeling good, and hopefully help get some more wins. But.
Yeah, hopefully get some more wins here. Yeah, I'm sure that's totally on the docket here the rest of the year. But yeah, there's something I've been watching this because I watched a lot of his games at the Ice Hogs this season. He looks pretty much exactly the same right now in a good way. His game is perfectly translating to the NHL level, and it's for as much production as he's had lately, he could easily have so much more. He gets so much chances every game. As he gets better in this league, he's going to start finishing those looks. He's going to start finishing those breakaways. Feels like every game the PK he gets chances. As he gets more reps in this league, he keeps getting more and more confident. The production's just going to keep coming. The sky is the limit for him. I couldn't be higher in this kid. I think people forget too. In his draft class, a lot of scouts said this guy might have the highest ceiling in the draft, and we're lucky he fell to 13. I think that Doc trade's looking pretty good already, and I think Nazar is only scratching the surface of what he can do here. He's probably the guy the rest of the season that I'm most excited to watch. He's a guy who's been pressing us so much. He's a reason to watch this team. As bad as this Hawks team is, at least we can see what Frank Nazar is doing every night.
Yeah, he's been really impressive to me. I'd like to see him. You got to hit the net on a breakaway.
Yeah, that's true.
You got to hit the net on a breakaway.
Yeah, probably want that one back. Yeah, there's one negative from last night.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Where do we want to go next? Do you want to hear Connor Murphy on the penalties? You want to hear Anders on TJ Brody?
Yeah, let's hear Anders on TJ Brody. I'd like to hear his thought process, why TJ Brody was in and not Nolan Allen last night. I probably wouldn't say anything about that, but yeah, let's hear from Sorensen.
Yeah, I mean, obviously today a tough start to the game, right? I think he's pressing a little bit. He's been in and out of the lineup a little bit, and he knows it, that he hasn't played well. We've talked about it, so I think you put extra weight on your own shoulders at times, and it just goes the wrong way.
I don't even know what to say to that.
I don't even know. Yeah, no, me
I don't even know how to
neither.
respond to that.
This isn't a player that is clearly he's fighting it for sure, but to me it's not this is somebody that's just squeezing the stick a little too tight and is maybe a little nervous. This
just a
to
skill
me is
issue,
a
Pat
guy.
Maroon. Wow.
This to me is just a guy who's totally lost it.
Yeah, he's done. He's not an NHL player anymore.
No.
Yeah.
This is, something that has been years in the development of him. I watched him with the Maple Leafs. Yeah. It was. This is something that's been happening for a while. This isn't a 5 or 10 game stretch.
So you think KD would have, seen that coming before signing him to that 2-year contract?
Yeah, but clearly he didn't. So
yeah, Hawks got to find a way to get out of that. We can't take another season of this. Playing TJ Brody accomplishes nothing at this point. Here's another positive. Look at Ethan Del Mastro's game. He comes back in, scores his first career goal, and I think he's looked really good up here. House has looked really good up here. Nolan Allen, yet we keep scratching him. For what reason? I don't know. It's because there's TJ Brody wastes a roster spot. He's making all that money. You got to play him. You're not just going to scratch him every night, even though he deserves it at this point. I don't think playing him accomplishes anything. So it's if we're going to move on from this guy, if we're going to buy him out, do whatever, if he's done, then just don't play the guy at this point. Play the young guys. Let's see a Del Mastro Allen third pair the rest of the season. Those two have played together a lot, in Rockford. Let's build that chemistry with those two guys who could have a future here, right? I don't know. Playing Brody accomplishes nothing. Every game he's a disaster. Every shift he's out there, he's lost out there. Seriously, every shift. That's not even hyperbole. We did the live stream. Every single time he's out there, you hold your breath because you know something terrible is about to happen. So I don't want to see him in the lineup anymore. But it's not a broken record player, and I know it's not going to happen. He's going to keep playing him because that's what we do here.
You'd have to imagine that this is heading towards buyout territory.
You would think, and I don't care. Yeah, just do it. Like I don't care what the cost is, whatever. Just do it. Like we can't take another season of this guy. Nobody's going to want him, so you're not going to be able. Future considerations is not on the table. You got to buy him out. That's probably the only solution at this point. Yeah.
We have a couple Murphy clips here. One on the penalties. And also on the spark for the rally. Can we just hear the first Murphy clip on the penalties last night?
Felt that too. I felt like one was coming and we were out playing and had them a little more on their heels, and usually that's when one of those little stick slashes or hooks ends up being called. So it would have been nice to see that happen and us to get a good look to tie it, because you could really feel the momentum was our way.
Yeah, I was saying on the live stream too. I thought the Hawks were owed a call at one point and never came. But like, if you're playing the game relying on a call coming at some point, that's probably not the wise way to go about it. Like, if you're playing, like, you shouldn't be worrying about what the refs are doing. Worry about your own job, your own play, and then that stuff will come, right? I mean, you're going to get less calls when you're not possessing the puck, you're not shooting the puck as much compared to the opposition. You're getting outplayed, but that's what's going to happen. Are there some calls Hawks could have gotten? Sure, but like, how many games have we seen out this season? Like, when you're a team like the Hawks, this bad, you're not going to get those benefit of the doubt calls, So, I don't.
Did you ever really believe that the Hawks were going to be able to make it, like, complete the comeback yesterday?
No, because I've seen this so many times before. We're always like a step away, right? I mean, how many 1-2 narrow edges have we seen from the Hawks this season? The Kings are being narrowly edged. So, I know. Yeah, I mean, maybe if they had a power play, they would have, but probably not. I mean, I was being delusional. Like, did I deep down I expect the Hawks to complete the comeback last night and win the game? Absolutely not. Like, I've seen this way too many times before. We're the Chicago Bears, the NHL. Just like, we can't lose games. Like, it's got always going to be in dramatic fashion, right? It can't be that simple.
Yeah. We do have one last clip here. It is Connor Murphy on the spark that led towards the rally, and I do want to discuss that a little bit. So maybe if we could just hear our last clip here.
I think just knowing you had nothing to lose and knowing that we didn't show up to play at all in that first period. So all it takes is just playing free and confident, and then getting on your toes and being engaged into the game. I think we didn't battle and compete to start. Let Raza out to dry, and just didn't feel like we had urgency. And then all we had to do was just start playing and competing the right way, and that's how the game unfolds.
How many times have we heard the same nonsense all season? Oh, we just needed a spark. We need to find our game. Like, when you find your game, when the puck is dropped.
Yeah.
Like, just start the fucking game on time. Like, how hard is that? Like, I don't want to hear that bullshit. Oh, it was 5-1, so now we started playing hockey. We found out we didn't start the game on time, so now we're going to start working. It's like, I don't want to hear that nonsense. Like, this is the NHL, man. Like, figure it out. Like, it's not rocket science here. Oh.
To me, it's a few issues here, right? Is it one that
Roster
maybe Vegas?
sucks.
Well, yeah, no duh. But did Vegas just stop playing for 2 periods? Was something said after the first intermission? And then it's like a larger discussion of, not starting on time is as much of a coaching issue as it is a player's issue.
I mean, Sorensen's clearly not like that guy. He looks like a Chell NPC in the locker room. Just no energy to him whatsoever. He's just not a head coach in the NHL. Like, he's an assistant guy. He's a dev coach. That's what he's been his whole career. AHL guy. Like, he's not. This is out of his league, pal. Like, I don't think he's going to be getting another gig in the NHL anytime soon. So, Hawks clearly need a culture change. A new face here. We've mentioned this before. I think that's probably the biggest priority in the offseason. There's the draft, there's the there's the free agency, all that jazz. But I think the new coach change is our biggest priority. Like, this team needs a leader, to man this team, because what we've seen this season hasn't been it from that regard. I do agree. As much as it is like, a skill issue of the roster, like it is, a coaching does play a factor in that. And we saw the same stuff was happening under Richardson too. So, no really changes there from that regard.
No status update also on Nick Foligno yesterday. There was a clip. I didn't clip it though, just because it was day to day. Sorensen said that it happened off a face-off, that Foligno just tweaked something, and that it was a lower body sort of situation. But didn't go past anything day to day too. So, quietly, Foligno has 26 points in 58 games this year.
I mean, for his age and like the fact that he's playing like in that defensive line shutdown situations, the PK, like that's pretty solid production. I believe he had 37 points in 74 games last year, so that's around the same pace about. So I'd say he's doing about what you'd expect. Like we don't really expect much out of Mick Foligno at this stage of his career. Like he wears the C more for off ice reasons, right? But I think on the ice, he's done his job. So I'd say one of the few vets in his team that I don't really have an issue with. I'd say he's doing his thing.
I'd imagine we'd get more of an update either later today or maybe tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, Sorensen's not like Luke from that regard. He doesn't really give you as much in terms of the timetables. If you don't know, just say you don't know. Not like the Brossois situation. Like, oh, maybe we'll see him in a few weeks. And, well, here we are in February. We still haven't seen him. So, yeah.
All right. Thoughts on tomorrow versus the Ducks? I know you said that this should be probably a pretty good opportunity to get Connor Bedard back on the scoreboard here. That's 4 games without a point for the first time in his National Hockey League career. I don't know.
Yeah, I look at this game like I agree. Like this should be a game not just for Bedard, but this should be a game for the Hawks to snap out of this 5-game losing streak. It's the Anaheim Ducks. Like this is a team that's, I'd say, skill-wise, roster-wise, at our level. I know they're higher in the standings, but like a lot of those games they've won have come out of Lucas Dostal bailing them out. Like they can't score. Greg Cronin is like probably one of the few coaches that make on the same level of sorts, and he's not that guy. He's just not it. The system there doesn't work. A lot of skill on this roster of the Ducks, but they just haven't really taken that step this year that people expected. And the Ducks are a team the Hawks I matched up well against, especially the last few years. It's a team that Bedsy's normally cooked against. I believe he had a 3-point game against everyone this season. Yeah, that's the same team. He had the 5-point game last year. So you would think this would be a game for the Hawks against the Ducks. Get something out of this West Coast trip, snap out of this funk, get a much needed morale win, especially after last night. I'd like to see a response. But again, these are things that should happen, but expecting anything like, logically to happen with this team is kind of, I wouldn't be surprised if they lay another dud out there. I think this is probably the low point of the season right now in terms of just where the locker room is at. Winter Classic probably was the low point, but like just with the locker room, it just seems like it's in such disarray right now. Maybe just because it's approaching the trade deadline and coming out of this 2-week break, it just seems so lost. Like this break clearly hasn't done anything good for them. I thought maybe it could be good for a reset, but clearly it hasn't. If anything, it's probably the last team that needed that. So yeah.
All right. I don't really have many expectations. The Anaheim Ducks are, honestly, I've heard some takes out there. If you're Kyle Davidson, you should look across the ice tomorrow against the Anaheim Ducks and think to yourself, that is exactly what I don't want this team to become.
Yeah, you don't want them to emulate that because, like, here's the thing. You can only be in this situation where the Hawks are for so many years. You can only tank for so long, right? You can only accrue prospects and draft capital for so long until eventually you got to start taking a step here, right? You can't develop this losing culture. It feels like the Ducks are definitely a team that has kind of fallen victim to that. Another look across the aisle in the Eastern Conference. Look at the Buffalo Sabres who've been caught in a never-ending just cycle of poverty. Those Senators have taken a step this year, but they're kind of a similar team there from that regard. So, eventually you got to start coming out of this thing. You eventually got to start making aggressive moves, getting some of these guys out for established players, to try and make that step. I think the Ducks haven't really done that. So they're definitely, a team, especially in our conference, that's kind of, you can learn from them, right? Learn what not to do from that standpoint.
Like I look at this lineup that you pulled up here and it's like, Troy Terry to me is the only, and Troy Terry is like a homegrown player by the Ducks, but he's not a young guy anymore. Like he's a veteran. Yeah. He's a vet in the National Hockey League. But if you're telling me that like Frank Vetrano and Ryan Strome and Alex Killorn and like if you're telling me that those are like the veterans that you get to insulate your young studs like Carlson and McTavish and whoever else, Cutter Gauthier. It's pathetic. Can you go down to the fourth line?
Sure.
Trevor Zegras is out right now because of suspension.
Well, there you go. Maybe a future Blackhawk there. Probably not. But, just throwing that out there. If we want guys who need a change of scenery, right? Reichel's been scratched the last few games. How about a Reichel and, a second or third for Zegras? I don't know. Just throwing thoughts out there,
Like the tanking... The tanking, the losing on purpose can only go for so long before you need high quality players. Like even this back end, it's Gudas, Trouba, Dumoulin. Jackson Lacombe is an excellent young player. Pavel Minchikov is an excellent young player, but you're surrounding them with like Truba, Gudis, and Dumoulin. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what the Hawks have done this past offseason too, like just not really making the
That's what
right
the Hawks
moves
are doing
to
right
supplement these
now.
players. Yeah, they're doing the same thing, but I would say the Ducks have been, in a situation a little longer than we have, so the timelines aren't quite the same here. But yeah, the Ducks are definitely a cautionary tale for sure. Zegras out probably helps us there. They have a few injuries for them. I think Fabry's out, a couple other guys, but otherwise, pretty much this is the roster. Gibson's out as well. Yeah, I think this is a game you would think logically that the Hawks take advantage here. Looking at these lines, though, I'm a little confused why Leo Carlson and Mason McTavish. Like, I feel like that should be your first line there. Like, I feel like I would have Carlson, McTavish with Troy Terry. I think that'd be a pretty good line. Not for Toronto, Ryan Strome. I don't know. Just something I'm noticing here. Like, doesn't really make a lot of sense. And just you look at their production. I think they haven't. Like, a lot of the young guys aren't having great seasons right now at the Ducks. Like, last I checked, Carlson, he's just not really been producing this year. He's kind of taken a step back compared to his rookie year. McTavish as well. I think he's kind of been more of the same. And Zegras the last 2 seasons, like it's just been equally. I don't know what's happened with his game. If it's Cronin's system, it just doesn't work. Just a lot of their guys, they have talent, but they're just not producing. Yeah. Look at this. Leo Carlson, 23 points at 52 games. Zegras, 16 and 34. McTavish, 31 and 52. Like, these guys are better than that,
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody really scores in that system. Yeah.
Agreed. Okay. Moving away from the Ducks, just because I think that is probably the team that moves me least in the National Hockey League. A loser franchise.
This is a game. I think tomorrow is actually a pretty damn important game for the Blackhawks. Like, we need something, man. Like, I don't think I've seen this fan base just the patience has run out. It's gone. Like, just give us some hope. Play us some pride these last 23 games of the season. The win losses, whatever. Just show some pride, show some heart, show that it effing matters, dude. Like, that's all I wanted. I'm not asking for a lot here. I mean, this season's lost. Like, just give us some hope. Just end strong. That's what I want to see. New month. Maybe that helps, right? February 25 has not been a great month for this team, but, flip the table to March. And I look back at last season. That was our best month of the year. So this team should get younger. 1 week out, the trade deadline. Get some of these unks out of here. Let's see a younger squad. See some college guys come in, sign their ELCs. Hopefully it'll be, a more fun, youthful team, right? And we'll see some glimpses of hope here. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the kind of effort and, somebody unironically or maybe ironically asked in the chat yesterday, like, is there a chance that we see Anders Sorensen and his staff fired before the end of the season?
Nah,
I don't.
At this point, just ride it out, man. Like, I do hope it is Sorensen, and I hope Sorensen and the staff are gone. I don't just want to see Sorensen gone. Like, I've mentioned this before.
No, it has to be everybody.
It's got to be. We've got to have a new slate here. Whoever comes in, whether it's David Carl, Mike Sullivan, whoever it ends up being, like, let them bring their own assistants and shit. Like, this team needs a vast change in that locker room there for sure. On and off the ice for sure.
But how bad does it get though? You know what I mean? You lose tomorrow, you lose on Monday, you lose on Wednesday.
Oh, we don't want to lose Wednesday. Maybe they're just saving it for Wednesday. They're saving it for the Midwest Coast Brewing live show.
I hope so. Man.
My goodness gracious, that better not be a dud. I think that's at the UC, so maybe that'd help. This team does tend to play a little better at home on the road, grasping at straws here, but this team just sucks on the road, man. I think they've won 6 games all year. Last year they sucked too, so home at least show a little bit of life. So the Satyrs are a team they've stacked up well against in the past, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that next week. That's a few games away. Right?
Yeah, I wonder how bad it can get here before something happens. The Kings on Monday.
Yeah, well, that doesn't get easier then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, something is going to happen soon. Next week, Friday, March 7th is a trade deadline. You would think. But yeah, I would say if nothing happens, I'll be very disappointed. Like, I would hope the talks are going to be very busy, selling, doing what they got to do. Maybe not even selling. Like, maybe they bring in some established guys here to get some immediate help. Like, do anything at this point. Just do something. Like, this team needs a change. Like, I think KD should be working the phones next week, next Friday. I would hope so. Or else we got to have some more conversations about him.
So let's get into the trade deadline a little bit here, which is 1 week from today. With that being said, I also, after our little trade deadline discussion, and I mocked up a 25-26 Hawks roster and what that could look like. There's a lot of discussion about next season being the 100th season. No peeking. I'll flip over my paper.
That's a good 100th season. You really think these guys want that to be a dud?
I don't think the organization can have it be, because there's 2 schools of thought here, right? That, and I'm talking from a team marketing perspective, right? If you are, because it's a hockey team. A hockey team's a business. You know, the NHL is different than other hockey leagues in that a lot of the money comes from TV revenue. However, it's ironic that the Hawks aren't really making TV revenue because they don't have a deal. Yeah, nobody's watching on CHSN. You're limiting yourself to maybe a quarter of the Blackhawks fans that are actually able to understand what it means to purchase CHSN and watch the games. Unless you get a TV deal with Xfinity done, hockey is based off of gate revenue. And, you know, with original 6 franchises, you don't like see it take a hit. Like even when the Leafs are bad and the Rangers are bad and the Hawks are bad,
they still have good attendance.
They still have good attendance. It's not like this is Anaheim or San Jose, you know, where there are pictures of barren arenas that NHL players are playing in front of.
Not like the pre, you know, the 2000s they had an issue because they quite literally weren't on TV for anybody back then. So different situation. Those teams are even worse than this one.
But so if you're marketing the 100th season, you have 2 schools of thought. Hey, it's the 100th season. No matter what happens on the ice next year, we are going to market the heck out of the fact that it's the 100th season, and that will be enough for us. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a team I used to work for, coming off of they were coming off of a championship. The entire marketing for the whole season that year, unnamed franchise, the entire marketing for that whole season was, we're the defending champs. We're the defending champs. We're the defending champs.
You can ride that.
You know where they finished that season?
They were bad that year.
Dead last.
Yeah, well, how do you go from champions to last? Jeez.
A lot of things go wrong. But you know what I'm saying, though? Like, they weren't so much selling the product on the ice as they were selling this storyline.
Which we haven't had that this season. Like, you know, last year we had Bedard's rookie year, 22-23. We had the last year of Kane Tays. You know, this year, like, what storyline have we had this season? Now, Ryan Donato and Sandy run, Arvid Sadabu, most improved player. Like, there's nothing to get excited with this team. Next year, you at least have that, which has nothing to do with the actual roster.
But is that enough?
No,
you know what I mean?
No, I don't think so. I think fans are getting, you know, we said it on the show. Like, they're losing their patience. So I don't think year 100 centennial season is going to just suddenly get people in the seats, right? I think you got to make the moves to show, like, we're going to take the season seriously on and off the ice, right? We're going to start accelerating this thing. I do think the time is now to do that. You know, KD said 2022, he has a 5-year plan, right? Next year is going to be year 4 of that. You see, Sepidar accelerates this thing. Well, no, next year we should really be seeing, you know, a much different hockey club. I don't think we can afford another season of this.
I agree.
I know McKenna's him, but I think if we're in a position this time next year, if we're in the McKenna sweepstakes, I think KD's not going to have his job any longer. So I don't think they can afford to have another season like this, like you said. So.
No, neither can I.
Yeah.
So
look at this attendance too. Just by the way, the Hawks are 3rd in attendance, 19,371. I do believe the Winter Classic might be bumping those numbers up a little bit, but that says a lot. Meanwhile, let's look at the San Jose Sharks, who are, you know, the one team in the league worse than us. Oh, look at that. They're, you know, 13,814, second to last. The Ducks, you know, same deal, 15,676. Point is, the Hawks fans still show up despite the poverty. But you can't guarantee that's always going to be the case, right?
Which might in fact be working against the Hawks.
Yeah,
you
so
know
it's
what I mean?
almost like, because like with these teams that are down there in the standings, like they need to be good for the fans to show up. The Hawks, that's not necessarily the case, right?
Yep.
So maybe that's a little bit of a buffer or something that could be said for that. Maybe that's a good point, actually. I never really thought about that. Yeah.
So it's just interesting, you know. I think this trade deadline, and then we can get into the trade deadline a little bit. Like, what are your expectations for it? And then I have a zag that I'd like to go down, and then I also have this roster that I constructed because we've been talking a lot about how big of an offseason this is, right?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like Donato, he's probably gone. I mean, there's an argument to keep him. I understand that argument for sure. He's one of the few, you know, he's not an unk. He's 28, 29. He's in his prime. So I understand. He feels like a guy who maybe wants to be here. I don't know. Like, we haven't really gotten a lot from Donato in terms of what he expects out of his future, which is kind of funny. Like, how much he's been in rumors. I haven't really heard much. Like, they haven't really asked him from the press about, you know, where he stands there. We haven't really gotten much nuggets. But I would imagine he's gone. Hopefully a second rounder at least in return. I think the way he's played this season warrants it. I mean, what's his production now? He's got like 40 points in 59 games. Like, for Ryan Donato. Like, if you're not getting at least a second back, then don't trade him. Just keep him. You know, I think he's worth it. Besides him, you know, obviously Seth's name's been in rumors. Is he actually dealt next week? I don't know. I think for the Hawks standpoint, we said on the show, it might make more sense for that move to wait in the offseason just because the cap's going to go up, and hopefully you can make a deal then where you don't have to retain as much salary. You can get a better return. If you can trade him next week where you're not retained too much, you're getting established young players in return who can, you know, slide in the NHL lineup right away, then do it. But I don't think there's a ton of teams on the table who can really make a Seth Jones trade work. We've brought them up, maybe Columbus, maybe Dallas, maybe Calgary, like teams like that. But besides, not really much else. So I think making a Seth Jones trade happen next week might be kind of tricky. I know he really wants it. I think a lot of Hawks fans probably want it, but you do have to think about the return. You don't want to rush a Seth Jones trade. You want to make that. It's got to happen the right way, right? So Murphy, I've seen his name in rumors. He just had a 3-assist night, the other night, back from injuries, playing pretty good hockey. He definitely could be a guy. If there's a market for Connor Murphy, make it happen. I don't know if anybody really wants Alec Martinez, but maybe he's somebody. Nobody wants CJ Brody, but Martinez maybe somebody. He could be like a 6 or 7 D somewhere on offense. Bag of pucks for Pat Maroon. I don't know who the hell is going to want Pat Maroon, and why he's been playing the last 2 nights and not Lucas Reichel is beyond me. But get him the hell out of here. I think that would be nice. Well, I just brought up Lucas Reichel. I hate to say it, but I mean, he might be a guy who could be dealt next week. I don't want him dealt, but just feels like this team has given up on him. And what? For him, he might need a change of scenery. So maybe get somebody else back who needs a change of scenery. I know you brought up Nick Robertson. I brought up Trevor Zegras. You probably have to throw in a few more, maybe some draft capital to make that work. Other guys here, if you can get something back for Craig Smith, maybe. I don't know if anybody really wants him.
Yep.
Besides that, though, nobody. Peter's played so bad, nobody's going to want him anymore. Maybe there is early in the season, maybe there's a market there, but I think you're stuck from the rest of the year.
It's probably an off-season kind of move if you're able to get off the Peter Mrazek contract.
Kurashev has started to produce a little bit. Maybe there's a market for him. Probably not. I don't think his trade value is very high anyway. So. But otherwise, who else on this team? I think we've pretty much named everybody who is maybe on the table here. I don't know if anybody else really is, but you never know though. Sometimes there's that surprising move that nobody sees coming, whose name wasn't in any trade boards, any rumors, and is dealt. So if they make a big move, there could be somebody here that we don't expect, right?
Yeah. So I'm of one mind and one mind only on the trade deadline here for the Blackhawks. And that is, surprisingly, you should be buying.
Is that right?
You should be buying at the trade
deadline. Don't wait till the offseason. Just do it now.
Nope. Do it now because you are playing these games like last night against Vegas, the 32-car pileup.
Already over. Yeah.
And you see Connor Bedard. You see the check. Yeah. Your 19-year-old superstar should not be checked out halfway or at the 3/4 mark of your second National Hockey League season, going into a contract year. Yes, it's restricted free agency, but you are eligible to sign him to an extension on July 1. Yeah. You need to show him and other players in this organization that you are trying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, that being said, let's get to my 25-26 Chicago Blackhawks roster.
Okay.
Now, part of this entails buying at the trade deadline.
Okay.
And part of this entails spending big in free agency.
Did all of that. Amen.
I truly believe that the Hawks should look to bring in anywhere between 4 and 6 players.
Hopefully actual players, not what we did last offseason, right?
Yeah. Not what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So this is what I have. Okay. I'm going to read all players and then I will explain how we get there.
Oh, so it's like franchise mode.
A little bit. I did kind of play franchise mode this morning.
Okay. Armchair GM. Let's hear it.
First line, Bertuzzi, Bedard, and then Marner Rantanen.
Okay.
We've kind of explained that you got to if one of those two or both of them hit the market, you got to get them. Whether it's $14 million, $15 million.
Who's your preference of those two?
Mitch Marner.
Mitch Marner.
100%.
Okay.
100%. I think Mitch Marner helps you win regular season hockey games more than Mikko Rantanen does.
That would be huge. That's like a move right there. It's one move, but man, would that work wonders, dude. That would make Bedard's situation so much easier. I think Greg Boysen brought up on the Wednesday show. These guys work in pairs, right? Get Bedsy a consistent line mate. That level of Mitch Marner is one of the best players in the league right now. That would do wonders for his game. Yeah.
Second line, Teravainen, Frank Nazar, Brock Besser.
Brock Besser, interesting.
And then I have some thoughts on Marner and Besser, but I do want to get through this. Third line, Ilya Mikheyev, Dylan Cousins, Colton Dach.
Wow. So what we're bringing I like this.
So we're bringing in Dylan Cousins.
Dylan Cousins,
and here's the move.
All right. Yeah.
Here's the move. Bring him in now. Bring him in the trade deadline.
Lucas Reichel, draft capital.
I have it right here. Dylan Cousins for 2025 Maple Leafs first.
Oh.
Your 2025 own second round pick. Your 2026 own second round pick. And if that doesn't get it done, throw in the 2026 Islanders second round pick that you have, because then you still have 1 second round pick this year and 1 second round pick next year.
I hope that
you have enough. 2 this year and 3 next year. So you would hope that would be
Yeah,
enough.
because Cousins' production the last couple of years has kind of dipped, so you'd think that his value wouldn't be super high.
But here's the thing, if you use those picks, you're going to hope that in 4 or 5 years they turn into a player like Dylan Cousins. Why not just go get Dylan Cousins
Right now? Yeah,
Why not just go get him right now?
Wow.
And then my fourth line here is Landon Slaggert, Jake Evans, Sammy Savoie.
That's a nasty fourth line.
Yeah, that is a hard to play against, legitimate NHL fourth line. I love marrying Jake Evans to this organization. He played at Notre Dame. I think that would be a great fit.
I'm noticing something. There's no 25 draft picks in that. You don't think James Higgins or Michael Misa plays in the Hawks next year?
No, I don't.
Really?
And then Foligno is my 13th forward, and Oliver Moore is my 14th
Yeah,
forward.
maybe he slots in. I think he probably has like a Frick Days our season where he starts off in Rockford and hopefully plays too well to where the Hawks got to insert him at some point in the lineup. Yeah.
So essentially what this means is in free agency, you are signing Marner, Besser, and Jake Evans. Hold on, because I still got my defense
my
too
bad.
that I want to.
I just want to see who's missing here. Yeah.
Well, there's a lot missing. So, there's no Donato, there's no Teravainen, there's no.
Hey, wait a minute. Oh, so terrible.
Or no, there is Teravainen.
Oh, yeah, there is.
sorry.
Yeah, Teravainen.
There's no Donato, there's no fourth line, Craig Smith, Pat Maroon, Kurashev, all of those guys are gone.
Yeah, which
in
I would
this.
agree with that. I think those are all the guys we mentioned, like hopefully, are on the market here, gone. Yeah.
Okay. Now my defense.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Alex Vlasic, Seth Jones.
Oh, Seth Jones is, so you're in the opinion, just keep the guy.
I am.
Oh, okay. I'm sure Hawks fans love that.
Kevin Korchinski and one of.
Option of.
No. Kevin Korchinski and one of Jacob Chikrin, Aaron Ekblad, or Neil Pionk.
Well, we're making moves here.
Well, I said you got to bring in four. This is bringing in 4 guys via free agency: Marner, Rantanen, Besser, Jake Evans, and now a defenseman. Get one defenseman. Take the load off Seth Jones. Take the load off some of these young guys. Vlasic. If Korch is going to be a full-time NHLer next season,
He better be. I mean,
You know.
what are we doing here? Levshinov might need another year. We'll
third
see.
pairing, I have Martinez and Levshinov.
Oh, Martinez is still here. Yeah,
I
fair
do.
enough.
Yeah, I do still have him here. It's not the best you can do, but
I think Renzel could slot in next year.
yeah, but then you're bringing in 3 young guys on your back end, and then I have Nolan Allen on my second pair. And maybe then you swap out Levshinov with Sam Renzel.
Yeah,
You know?
I'd say, Renzel might be more ready than Levshinov.
I believe that. I just think, man, Levshinov is such a high pick that it's almost like if he's not, like I'm not putting pressure on the kid, but like
You think he should be.
he should be.
Yeah,
he should
that
be
was the
ready.
mindset I had going into this year. Like, does 1 year in Rockford, and then is automatically on the team next year, and he might eventually get to that point next year, but he might not just start.
Like
the year.
how many
Yeah.
how many top 2 defenseman picks weren't on the NHL roster by the start of the second season?
Defensemen tend to take longer, but like number 2 there's a point to that.
A top
right?
2 like the last player I can even think of being a defenseman that was a top 2 pick was Owen Power, right? And he
he didn't play
went back to Michigan for a year, but then he was in the Sabres lineup.
Yeah.
By the end of that season.
Yeah, another first overall pick. I think Eric Johnson took him a few years to get to that NHL lineup. So some guys just take longer. I don't know. I think Levshinov has been playing a lot better lately. He just got suspended, but the way he's played lately, if he keeps ending the season like that, he could be in the Hawks next year.
Nolan Allen is my 7th defenseman in this.
Yeah, the only change to get them. Yeah, Martinez is just a waste of space. Like I would say, Allen third pair, and then Krevier's maybe 7th or something. Yeah.
Okay, and then my goaltenders: Arvid Soderblom, Spencer Knight.
Spencer Knight. Oh.
And here is how we acquire Spencer Knight.
Yeah.
You acquire him at the deadline too.
Okay.
Spencer Knight, 4, Ryan Donato, Craig Smith, Connor Murphy at 50% retained, Lucas Reichel, and Ethan Del Mastro.
Okay. Wow.
The Panthers are a Stanley Cup contender. They need depth. You have an abundance of players. Okay. Like Matthew Tkachuk is injured right now.
Yeah.
So cap space isn't really a problem. You are you're getting a guy who can be a starter in the National Hockey League for the next 12 years. And if you're the Florida Panthers, you become more likely to win the Stanley Cup this year with
and
those
that's
players.
a lot of depth for sure.
And they're the Panthers, right? So you take young players like Reichel and Ethan Del Mastro, and you are able to hopefully turn them into something in your system, something that they're just not going to become here in Chicago. Smith, Donato, like maybe they re-sign Donato, maybe he likes it in Florida, maybe not, maybe he decides to go cash in somewhere else. You're winning the Stanley Cup now, though. Like, this is a team that needs to win the Stanley Cup now. So,
Yeah, I think they got a good chance to go back to back. Probably just could use a little more depth there. Yeah.
I don't hate it because you're clearing out 2 young players, 3 vets, and you're bringing back a quality piece.
You don't know for sure whether Comesso or Guyan's going to be that guy. Even Soderblom for that measure. I think Soderblom could be, but that's a good tandem right there. Like Knight, Soderblom. Like I feel much better than get Peter the hell out of here. You don't need his baggage anymore. So.
And all this is to say, like, look, I don't think that this is maybe exactly how these deals would work out. You know, a 5-for-1 trade is kind of crazy. I don't even know if the Panthers have the contract.
A lot
room
of this is optimism, right? Like your ideal offseason, how it plays out.
Your
right?
ideal,
not all of it's going to happen.
If you bring in Spencer Knight and Dylan Cousins before 5 o'clock next Friday, right? Those are realistic moves you can make. Maybe they don't look exactly like this. Maybe I, have a little bit more for Dylan Cousins. Maybe I have a little bit less for Spencer. You know what I mean? Like maybe I'm valuing Spencer Knight a little bit less. Maybe, Smith and Murphy and Donato plus Reichel and EDM don't get it done. Maybe this is a little bit much for Dylan Cousins. Make it work.
I was kind of thinking that. Yeah.
Make it work. And if you can throw it, there's a lot of Buffalo guys on the board right now. There's Alex Tuck. So if you could throw in Alex Tuck in there, maybe the 3 second rounders and the Maple Leafs first rounder for Cousins and Doc. Those are the clips. Okay. Maybe that works out. I heard today JJ Peterka.
You have Sam Bennett.
I do also have Sam Bennett, but that's like
question. Yeah.
That to me, like, look, I don't think bringing in 1, 2, 3 quality free agent signings in Marner, Rantanen, Besser, and one of the defensemen of Chychrun, Ekblad, or Pionk. I don't think bringing in 3 high-end, like Marner and Rantanen are like the superstar tier. Besser and Chychrun, Ekblad, Pionk are like that next level. You know what I mean? So you're bringing 1 superstar, 2 next level guys, and then Jake Evans, who's like a 4th liner, right? Yeah. But a really high quality 4th liner that, I can imagine playing well with some of these guys, if you're going to bring up Sammy Savoie to the NHL next season, right? I don't know. I see it maybe piecing it together a little quicker.
Well, so much better looking team than what we have right now. At this point, maybe early season me wouldn't have been on this train, but I'm at the stage now where it's like, dude, we got to start being aggressive. We got no more being passive. Like you got to start shipping off some of this capital. Like we have so much of it. We've already had 8 first round picks the last 3 years. And yeah, we have such a large quantity of prospects, and like you said, they're not all going to pan out. So let's get some established players here to help kind of trudge this thing along a little bit, right?
And this is only requiring 2 trades made.
Yeah, the only adjustments I would assume if we do draft, which I hope we draft Misa Higgins, I would hope that they would be in the NHL next year on that second line. So maybe you can make one less move there in the offense. And the defense thing, we have so much young defensemen. Although I would say if you do end up keeping Jones, you probably don't. If you trade Jones, you probably do need to make a move like that. But if you keep him, I don't know if that's really necessary. That would just have another young defenseman there. And then the goaltending situation, that's the thing. I do think Soderblom is the starter, right? But then do you feel confident with Comesso as a backup? So do you have to maybe I see your vision here. I just get that goaltender now. If you don't believe that we have that goalie now at the time.
It's when are you gonna? You know what I mean? It's hopefully in a couple of years, Drew Comesso turns into Spencer Knight.
Hopefully, right?
Or you could just go get Spencer Knight.
Just get I would say I haven't really seen enough from either of Comesso or Guyan where it's that's our guy, right? So might be time to get aggressive. I think Soderblom could be. I think Soderblom could be the guy. Am I crazy to say that?
Maybe not after this year. I wouldn't hinge.
Don't hedge all your bets on Arvid. Yeah,
I would not.
And there's something to be said for having just a solid 1A, 1B tandem. That could be it. Yeah.
Lee is really high. I also, where I have Dylan Cousins, I also have Wyatt Johnston.
Lee would want to see Brady and Chuck in there.
Yeah, but that's not happening. You know what I mean? Brady Tkachuk, they're not going to trade him. And even if they do, where Brady Tkachuk wants to go play? On a Stanley Cup contender.
Matthew.
Or just on a team that's closer to it.
Yeah, he's been in this cycle. He hasn't seen playoff hockey in 7 years. I don't think the Hawks. Oh, I will say, I don't know if this team is playoffs, but it's pretty close. Am I crazy? On paper, this should be a team that's in the hunt, in the mix. I want next year, I want to be playing meaningful hockey this time. I'm not expecting playoffs next year. I want meaningful hockey. I think we're all in that same train, right? We want games that matter this time of year. We haven't seen that in years. So I think that would go a long way towards establishing that culture. And then also think about what we should hopefully have an actual NHL coach leading that team as well to get the best out of that team, right? I think even this year's team, as bad as it is on paper, like it could be doing a hell of a lot better with the right, pieces in place, management and coaching and all the 9 yards there. So that's gonna play a big part as well. And who's your main guy for coaching? I feel like Mike Sullivan, is it?
Look, I don't know. I watched Alex Nedeljkovic get off the bench or get pulled yesterday and scream down the bench.
I don't know if he's the guy for this team.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think if you can get David Carl, make it work. I know he's a young coach. I know we've been down that road, but I just think with a younger team like this, it could make a lot of sense development-wise. I think what he's done there at Denver and the U.S. World Juniors team, like he could be our Ben Johnson. I don't know. Yeah.
I need to see.
He's not proven though.
I need to see he's not washed. You know what I mean? And I guess, maybe the Four Nations did kind of show me a little bit that he's not washed as a coach, Sullivan. But it just looks like that whole situation in Pittsburgh is driving everybody down a spiral here that is just going to be really tough to pull themselves out of, I almost think it would be better for the Hawks to get Mike Sullivan if they fired him right now. Fire him right now. And then I'm like, okay, maybe give him a little bit of time to sort of walk away from whatever's going on in Pittsburgh. But, I think it's a mess there. I saw Gerard Gallant in chat tonight. Gerard Gallant is sort of like one of those guys that has an incredibly short shelf life. He
always seems to work out well, short term, but then it just falls apart. He doesn't last. No. So if you want an immediate turnaround, he could be good, but I don't think he's probably the guy long term. He never really tends to be kind of that stopgap coach for a bit, and then a new guy comes in and establishes himself, right? So I probably want somebody else.
So make it happen. Make this happen. Make this happen. And that is my point.
Well, hopefully we're not being delusional out here. Right?
Look, and there's two, like I said, there's 2 trades here, right? There's 2 trades and there's 4 free agent signings. That to me is not a crazy move when you consider the amount of second round picks that this team has. The fact that the Maple Leafs first rounder to them this year is practically useless. You have an abundance of cap space and an abundance of prospects. This would mean and it doesn't need to look exactly like this, obviously, but how you go about it. Do you land one of the top 2 free agents this year if they both hit the market, Marner, Rantanen? Okay. And look, honestly, this may look a little bit different if you need to do a sign and trade with
option
Marner
here.
and Rantanen.
I'm seeing Wyatt Johnson's name. You could try offer sheeting Wyatt Johnson, something aggressive like
that I don't like.
Matthew Nyes.
That I don't like because you're gonna give up your own pick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're gonna give up. You have to give up your own picks. I would rather trade for Wyatt Johnston, but I don't think the Dallas Stars are going to trade.
The Blues
made
it work with guys like Dylan Holloway. Yeah.
But that's not Wyatt Johnston.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
No,
the Blues got Dylan Holloway by offer sheeting him $1 million or whatever.
And
his
value
$2
was
million.
you're right. Yeah.
They got Broberg.
Nothing there.
Wyatt Johnston, you need to offer sheet probably $8.5 million to have Dallas not match. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is, I think, a first, a second, and a third.
Yeah, I see that.
So, this could look a little different. Maybe it's, if you're going to bring in, maybe Mitch Marner, Greg said this on Wednesday that maybe Mitch Marner is a sign and trade, because maybe the Maple Leafs want to get something in return. So
you would hope so, right? For their standpoint, losing him for nothing would be kind of a disaster.
Yeah, maybe, and then you get that 8th year on Marner too, so maybe some of these, maybe it ends up being 3 trades and 3 signings,
Okay.
This is just all purely speculation, but this is what needs to happen. I think you need 2 high-end guys in the top 6. You need 1 guy to help solidify the bottom 6. Bring in a quality defenseman, trade for a young NHL player in Dylan Cousins or Trevor Zegras or something like that, and get a goalie.
Okay.
Get a goalie.
I see the vision. You're addressing everything here.
Get a young goalie.
Nothing's being left unturned.
No.
Yeah.
No. All right. You want to do some questions?
Yeah, let's get to the questions.
Let's do some questions because we gotta go to break here soon.
Question.
Remember, we answer questions every single Friday. You can DM them to us or you can send them to us via Discord. Okay. Let me get to the mailbag here. Sorry. Filibuster. Okay. Question for Friday. Since I'm sick of hearing about this stupid Hawks team, what was your guys' favorite or most memorable game from the Hawks Cup runs? This is more of a question for you.
Oh, wow.
Probably would be good to have Lee here for this one. But.
Oh, yeah. I would say nothing for me beats 17 seconds. I remember I was at Colorado on vacation. We were watching in some like random bar or something, and like just seeing that happen was like you blinked and it's like all of a sudden we won the cup, dude. Like nothing really beats that. And I think it was Pileup too because obviously the Leafs choked to the Bruins in the first round, so the Bruins got a little bit of a taste of their own medicine there in the cup. So that was fantastic. I'd say the first one that really got me into hockey. I was sort of into the Hawks in 2010, but like it was seeing Kane score that obviously that winner against Philly was like really what brought me in. Right, and that's what made me a fan for life. It was Patrick Kane. Like he was the guy who got me into hockey. Miss him. Miss my original Pookie. But so that was a big one. Obviously, 2013 Seabrook OT winner against Detroit because that 2013 Hawks team, like statistically, one of the best hockey teams of all time. I think, and you could argue it's up there. So, and we were down 3-1 that series against Detroit. Jalmerson scored a goal in that game that would have avoided OT. It was called off. Probably shouldn't have been. So it was it was tense. Times were very tense. So Seabrook coming in, scoring that clutch goal, will always be a big moment for sure. 2015 just solidifying the dynasty, obviously, Game 6, Keith and Kane, Saad to Richards, across to Kane, he scores, just the 3 cups in 6 years. That was the first one home ice too. They all came in Game 6 too, 2010, 13, 15, they were all Game 6. We never had to play Game 7, the cup, which was, I think that worked out nicely. Man, there's so many moments, man. I could, talk about this all day, but just those teams, man, so special. Like childhood was absolutely spoiled watching this team, and it's like, you don't really fully appreciate it, right? And then when you're in adulthood here, and now I'm scouring the webs for for prospects. I wasn't worrying about prospects when I was a kid, man. I just enjoyed watching winning hockey. I miss those days. I'm looking forward to the days when we don't have to worry about prospects and drafts and draft lottery and just enjoying the product on the ice. We're a ways away from that, and I think it's gonna be hard to emulate. It's hard to beat that 3 cup and 6 year run. I think it's hard to. That's so hard to do in today's NHL, man. Just the way it is, the parity and just the salary cap and all that. Just it's hard to do that. It was easier back in the day of less teams, and just more talent discrepancies. So. Yeah, but I think, with Bedard, you think you'd like to get at least one out of it. So I think if it all pans out, it'd be nice to get back to that, but we're a ways away.
Obviously, I didn't grow up a Chicago Blackhawks fan, but the 2010 Stanley Cup final was the first one that I really remember watching. You know what I mean? Like that to me was like, obviously I had watched like the Pittsburgh ones and stuff like that, but
it's a crime. Sorry, I hate to cut you off, but it was a crime that we never got to see a Hawks Pens Cup final.
Oh, true.
That would have fed families.
But that to me was like the first one that like I remember where I was when Patrick Kane put that put that puck in the net.
Only guy I knew he scored in that whole arena.
Yeah. It was really special. So I remember that one, I was in my grandparents' apartment in Toronto, just, watching that being like, wow, like they're handing out the Stanley Cup here.
He was so clutch, man. All those guys were so clutch. Like there wasn't a weakness on that roster, man. Just perfectly constructed. All those teams. It's like just so special. I mean, they really had, it's funny. You look at all the quarter century teams that the NHL has laid out. For the Blackhawks, their first team, everybody else, it's like this is throughout the 2000s, right? The Hawks, all those guys are on the same team at the same time. Like it's kind of hard to believe that how much Hall of Famers they have there. Kane, Taves, Keith, and then you have Host obviously, and then not quite Hall of Famers, but you got Seabrook, Sharp, and Crow, and all those guys, and Jalmerson. It's like my goodness gracious, like you just won't see a team like that ever again. I don't think.
Yeah. All right. Questions from Discord. Do you think if the players we expect to get traded at the deadline don't get traded, will the coaching staff still continue to play these unk plugs, or will we get the last 2 months of trying out some other players down the pipeline, like Korch or Artie, maybe even Reichel Bedard line?
Yeah, I would freaking hope so, dude. Like that's why I want to see his moves to the trade deadline. Get these unks out of here so you open up those roster spots. Because as long as those guys are still here, guess what? They're veterans. They're going to keep getting the playing time, so it's not going to happen. Korchinski should be up here right now. He looked fine when that little stint he was up here. Like at this stage, 2022 draft pick, like there's no reason Korchinski shouldn't be playing up here right now. Levshinov, I'm fine with keeping him in Rockford. Just let him cook there. Build confidence the rest of the year. I don't think he needs to be up here, but maybe give him, I don't know, just a couple games at the end of the year just to see where he's at. Like kind of what you did with Nazar last year. I'd be okay with that. But like, here's the thing: a lot of those guys are up here now. Ice Hogs, it's not like early in the season. So I think it's more like the college guys coming in. We'll see. Like hopefully we'll see more in Renzel. But Minnesota's probably going to play a lot of hockey here the rest of this year. So we might not see him till the end of the year like we did with Nazar last year. But hopefully we see him at some point. Yeah.
They will play the veterans if they have them on the team.
Exactly. So we got to get them out of here.
Yep.
If they're still here, then we're not going to see all that, fun stuff I just mentioned.
All right, 2 more questions. We got to wrap through this quick.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned, sorry, one more thing of Reichel. Yeah, I would love to see that Reichel Bedard line. Have we seen a Reichel Bedard line? No, and we're in March here almost, so I don't think we're going to see it. I think that ship has sailed. I hate to say it, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Andreas Athanasiou? Does he play for Rockford, or did he get picked up by another team?
Yeah, he's still in Rockford.
If he does play for Rockford, is he any good? Because watching this team, I feel like he could have been used for his speed with this overall slow offense we have. Did Katie make a mistake, or is he not as valuable as guys like Maroon and Smith to other teams for trade value?
Maroon is fucking useless. Like, Athanasiou should be up here right now. With his speed, it'd be perfect for a guy. He's had good chemistry with guys like Reichel. I think he looked good with a guy like Nazar. Like, he's healthy there. I think he's playing at a point per game pace. He's not an AHL player. Like, why the hell he's down there is beyond me. He gets hurt, and now he's an AHL. I don't get it. It makes no sense. He should be up here. Yeah.
So he has 16 points in 16 games with Rockford this season, 18 penalty minutes. He's a -3. And yeah, he's still signed through next season.
Yeah, so it's like, why?
At 4.5. So
making $4.5 million in Rockford is...
And, he only got into 5 games this season with the Hawks. I just think that that's not enough to make a determination on somebody. And, yes, I do think he could be useful. Yes, I think he has his flaws. And I also think that there are probably not a lot of teams around the National Hockey League who would bring on Andreas Athanasiou. You know what I mean?
Well, I think to his point, like a guy like that with his speed and his talents, like he'd be a hell of a lot more useful. There was a guy on X who did a shift-by-shift breakdown of Pat Maroon last night. I think it's Blackhawks Focus. He does nothing. Nothing. Guys like Brody, nothing. Craig Smith just floats around out there. Like, yes, a guy like Athanasiou at least has some talent. So yeah, I think he should be up here. I think he's 28, 29, 30. So he's not an unk, he's in his supposed prime. I know he has had injury issues and etc. But it's like, you look back a couple of years ago when he was healthy, he was good up here. So he at least has some potential, right? So I don't know why we're playing. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question because, there's no logic in breaking this team down.
Okay. Actually, now we have 2 more questions. Sorry. Which of our center prospects do you think will end up playing in the NHL on the wing? Connor Bedard, Frank Nazar, Ilya Safonov, Ryan Green, and Aiden Thompson. Aren't they defensemen?
Bedard?
No, he's not. Sorry, Aiden Thompson. Hold on, there's more here on this list. Dominic James, Alex Ferrand, Yuri Falkman, Sasha Boyver. So which center prospects will play on the wing?
Honestly, I brought this up before. I think ideally, I think Bedard... He's a center, but he plays like a winger. Ideally, if you had a 1C and you put him on the wing, I think that would work. But I think Bedard almost has to be the 1C in this team. But the way Frank Nazar has been playing and the ceiling that I think he has, I think a lot of Hawks fans feel he has. I think Frank Nazar could be the 1C and you move Bedsy to the wing. Am I crazy for saying that? Am I nuts? Am I on something? I think that could work. I think that would do wonders for Bedsy. He doesn't have to worry about the defensive responsibilities. Just let him cook. Let him be Patrick Kane. I think that's Bedard's game, man. He slows the game down. His vision, his playmaking, his sniping. Just let him do that. Don't worry about the faceoffs. So they have been a little better lately. Let Nazar take care of all that. The two-way game. That's what he's so good at. He's been the PK. Let Nazar shoulder those responsibilities. I think he's that good. I think he could be a 1C. Move Bedard to the wing. Then to answer the rest of that question, I think Boisvert 2C, Moore 3C, and then I'll insert anybody in the 4C spot. I'd say that's the way I see it. Yeah.
I really don't have an opinion on this because you don't even know if all these kids are going to play in the NHL. The Ryan Greens, Ilya Safonov, Aiden Thompson.
You're throwing darts on a board there. Who knows?
So to judge whether they're going to be able to play down the middle or on the wing, this is just, that's tough. This is prospect talk to the extreme. Okay, last question, and then we got to go to break quickly. My last question of the week, or my question last week didn't hit like I wanted. Here's a non-hockey one. What are your guys', Ravens included, hobbies outside of hockey? Also, I think a fun game you guys could play, NHL Immaculate Grid on separate devices and see who can get the most in 3 minutes while I just dust these guys.
Yeah. No, I get cooked. He knows all the random guys, so he destroyed that.
What are your hobbies outside of hockey?
That's
Raven, I'm you also are being tasked to answer this question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like Bedard, man. That's hockey is what I do. It's what I watch. It's what but there are I do have a personality outside of hockey. I mean, I watch other sports. I play. Occasionally I'll play beer league. Hockey. I guess that's not really outside of hockey, but I enjoy reading. I think it's important to keep up with that. I enjoy watching cinema. I love watching movies, TV. Probably too much. I like binging shit. So that's fun. yeah, I'd say that's probably it. Yeah, hanging out with friends. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, this is so tough just because like
video games.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. This is a tough one just because like my life is so centered around hockey. You know,
yeah, it's constant.
My biggest hobby is
Racing.
like working on you know, this Greek hockey project that I've been doing for a few years now, and like doing it again this year, and so that's like, you know, even when my mind isn't on hockey here, my mind is on hockey there, and it's fun because I'm more like in the mix. You know, here we're covering the Blackhawks, so like we're not really insiders, we're outsiders. You know, I am going to work to get us like press passes and stuff for
hell yeah.
next year and stuff. I've had a connection. I just, you know, want us to grow enough to a point that we can get there. But so it is a lot of hockey related. You know, I would say my interests and hobbies, it's business related. It's like growing, you know, the brand here and, you know, what we're trying to do, you know, seeing what else can be done to, you know, grow things here. And, you know, I work with a lot of my friends here too, like Lee and Tim Tebow and Raven, obviously. So, you know, like, I wish I should get out there more. I need to get out there more and
I
like
get
do some
that.
other stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
See the outside world there. Get the
yeah.
vitamin D up. We're always doing our podcasting and stuff.
I got a good answer. Live music. Like I do like once every couple of weeks, like I'll go see like a funk band here in Chicago, or, you know, I'll go see like a lot of my buddies are jazz musicians here in the city.
I enjoy
so
listening like chill hop. That's
yeah,
fun. Like
just
jazzy,
like
yeah.
going to see some live music.
Guy?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, Chicago's a good spot for it.
Yeah. Raven?
F1.
A lot of them have been already said. Yeah, racing,
yeah.
video games. I like learning a lot too. I play guitar every once in a while. So, you know, music, like Tassos said. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's mostly probably just learning and trying to figure out what I can do better for this show and what I can better in my skill set overall. So I know it's a cliche answer, but here we are.
Yeah, that's like a PR answer. Like, yeah, but I appreciate that. You mentioned music. Yeah, I occasionally will drum and stuff. Not as much as I used to, but yeah, I play a little bit of the percussion a little bit.
Guys, we almost have a band.
Yeah, well, honestly, where's so Lee could be the vocalist then? Oh boy, I don't know if that's gonna work out. Does Lee play any instruments? I have no idea. No. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, he'll be the roadie or whatever it is. Yeah.
All right, we got to hit a break. We got Robert Babiak on the other side. Stick around. Thanks for the questions, everybody, and we will be back soon. It's the NHL or Chicago Hockey Radio. Justin Lynch, Tassos Kirkos, Raven Gasser, bringing it to you live and in color. We're going to bring on Robert Babiak here in a second to talk the NHL trade deadline. He also has a rant.
We actually have him already here.
Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Okay.
So let's bring him on now then.
All right. Hell yeah.
Robert, do we have you with us today? Yes, we do.
Like my settings are all jacked.
No, you're
Hello
good.
there.
All good.
Yeah.
How you doing?
Oh, he's yours.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah.
We got you. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good.
Fantastic.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining the show. So you messaged me. Let's start with this. So you messaged me saying that you have a rant about Shane Wright and Sidney Crosby. Are they? Are these two rants? Are they intertwined or are they separate ones here?
They're separate ones here, but I think you can draw some interesting parallels between the two.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Okay, so which half do you want first? Do you want me to rant about Sidney Crosby and tie it into Shane Wright?
Yes.
Okay, Sidney Crosby is one of the best players in the entire world. I think everybody can agree on that. He day to day impresses everybody, just offensively and defensively. One of the most hated people in the NHL right now is probably Kyle Dubas, his GM, who has taken a team where it looked like they were going to do like a refresh, like just a little bit of a like revamp, because the roster had so many solid vets that you think you could like reasonably be in a good spot. Instead, now they're in this like, oh, we're actually doing a full rebuild situation. So everyone's like, why the hell did you trade for Carlson then? Like, A plus B isn't equaling C, guys. And so now it looks like a full rebuild is the only option they have. They have no goaltending that's consistent. So we're watching Sidney Crosby playing these games. And granted, they won last night, so credit to them. But the 3 games before that were disastrous. So it seems like we have an ultimate waste of one of the best talents ever in the NHL, who's going to stay there because loyalty to the team. But they have a guy who I don't understand what his philosophy is, but it seems like he's trying to prove to everybody that he knows what he's doing by doing something different. And it didn't work in Toronto, and it's not going to work in Pittsburgh. So it's a real shame that we're going to have these next 2-3 years of Crosby's career where they're going to be out of the playoffs, just getting absolutely pummeled by a team like the Flyers, and they also suck.
Yeah.
So like, yeah.
So interesting stat about the Penguins. Last night, that was the 12th time the Pittsburgh Penguins have allowed a goal on the opponent's first shot of the game. So I just
I can't believe that's a real stat.
Nedeljkovic has been beaten on the first shot 4 times, Tristan Jarry 6 times, Joel Blomqvist twice.
Wow.
Is there, I have some friends that are close to the Pittsburgh organization. It like the Sidney Crosby thing wanting to stay there seems to be more of like it's like, oh, I want to be like Steve Yzerman. I want to be like Mario. I want to be like, players that have spent their whole careers with one, Nick Lidstrom, guys like that. I don't know. Like, is there really any way that like a guy who experienced winning, right? Like got that taste with Canada at the Four Nations, does that guy not have like the insatiable hunger to like go chase? Or is this legitimately, I saw something today. It's like Sidney Crosby played his last NHL playoff game if he stays in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, Scott McKenna comes and saves them, but I don't know if even that's going to get him out of it for a while.
I don't know. Like what? I don't know.
It's
What do you
pretty
think?
spot on. It's a spot on analysis, I think. I don't know how you can get this team to be instantaneously competitive, especially because you have to trade Carlson if you're going to do that and retain money.
Yikes.
So like you're extra screwed in that sense. Like Kyle Dubas, I thought at the very end of his Leafs tenure, I'm like, oh, these were good trades. Like he made moves that I had finally agreed with, so I laid off ripping into him. But then you go into Pittsburgh and everyone's kind of going like, he's doing I'm the smartest guy in the room, watch me. And then it just blows right back up in his face. Like I can't comprehend exactly what they're doing, because they said, oh, we're going to trade everybody. Everyone's for sale. Oh no, sorry. I didn't really mean that. Like the messaging is not consistent. And yeah, I think it would be his last playoff game. I'd be willing to say that pretty confidently. Like,
Yeah.
what are they going to do? Are they going to find a number one?
I mean, that'd be smart for them. I think this is time for them. It's like, if they're smart, they should enter a full-fledged rebuild this stage because they're not going anywhere. But is he going to be one to do that? Kind of walk back those moves he made. It won't make him look good. It kind of reminds me of the Seth Jones situation where we sign him, think we're going to be competitive, then we enter a rebuild right away, Yeah.
Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kyle Dubas does do that, and he's starting to get the heat now. Like, people in hockey are starting to, point at the salary he makes. I think he's making like $7 million a year as the Penguins GM. And
he's got to be up there.
yeah. And it's an organization now that's owned by a big conglomerate in Fenway, and they're apparently really confident in him, and I don't think they're going to let him go, obviously, because they
put a lot of
stuff to
faith
pay
in
him,
him,
and it's just turns into like this whole mess here. So how does this tie into Shane Wright? How do we tie this in?
Yeah, so a good tie-in is so you talk about guys drafted first overall, like Slav, Sidney Crosby, again, Ovi. You have some of these guys who are incredibly talented players that went first overall. And then you had Shane Wright, who was a consensus like Sidney Crosby was. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, leading into the year, like this is going to be it. And then I think about a month before the draft, you started to hear like the rumors or the cracklings that maybe Shane doesn't go. I hadn't really bought into them. To be honest with you, because I'd watched his film and I go, like, he has every intangible. Like, I'm not too worried. The odd weird performance out of him, but again, you try and like be fair to these young players because people tend to like really want to rip into them early, and I don't like to do that. 17 years old, you're gonna have bad games or even a bad World Championships, like that type of stuff. But I go, okay, yeah, Shane, if he doesn't go 1, like the Slav guy looked pretty good, but whatever. He'll go 2. And then we saw him go 4, and then everyone ripped into him down the way, and they're like trashing the guy. They don't like his personality. They don't like the way he was acting on draft day. He looked a lot like the way that Eric Lindros looked when he was drafted, similar facial expressions.
Yep.
So everyone's like, oh, he's a bust. He's a bust. I had people I work with say like he's going to be trash. He's going to be nothing maybe better than a third-line player. And then I dropped a video this week showing that just based on the projections on Elite Prospects, which are pretty accurate, he's going to have more points than Slav this season with less ice time, about 3 minutes less per game on a arguably worse team.
Yeah.
And, his plus minus looks pretty good. So I haven't heard anyone else say, oh, yeah, Shane Wright, we were wrong. And he goes on Jeff Merrick's podcast this week, and I go, I think this might be time to make the big statement of the hockey world was insanely wrong about Shane Wright for no reason. I don't think there was any reason other than he's a little cocky. Yeah, you probably would be if everyone's saying for 3 straight years, first overall pick, this kid's going to be sick. Would you not think that you would have some? Especially when you won things and you scored a shit ton of goals. Eric Lindros had the exact same demeanor, exact same attitude. And when you don't go first overall, yeah, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to show them.
Yeah, he's taking it personally the right way.
Yes, exactly. So no shit. Like, he's going to act like this. Like, this is what I expected him to do if you're that talented of a player. But everyone's saying like this and that about him. I watch the kid's film and I go, he's got all the intangibles. He'll be sick. So that part and no one's going, I was wrong. It's silence.
So, and it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it is kind of interesting too, because, the expectation for high draft picks now is, you go straight to the NHL. I remember with the Slavkovsky thing, it was, he played in the Olympics that didn't have NHLers. He led it in goals, as a young kid. I think Slovakia won like the bronze medal at that tournament. And it became like this thing where it's like, oh, like this guy is, and I think Yuri Slavkovsky now, he's starting to, like, there's the quotes of him wanting to be like Brady Tkachuk and, being physical and being in your face. And, if I'm Yuri Slavkovsky, that's probably the way that you are going to turn yourself into a first overall pick worthy kind of player. Because you're right. Like, I do think Shane Wright has, done it the right way. And you know what? Maybe it's part of that cockiness. He was an exceptional status player too. That comes with a lot of burden. You know what I mean? Like, that comes with a lot of, and when I think the last exceptional status player before Shane was Sean Day, and that one didn't really work out.
Yeah.
The next one was Connor Bedard, right? And Shane and Connor, like, they played together at the World Juniors. Like, they played together at the World Under 18s in Texas too. Like, those two guys have been linked a lot, and Bedard, kind of blew him out of the water in junior a little bit, and it was always like Shane had to have this chip on his shoulder, right? And then he goes to Coachella Valley and he spends time learning the pro game before being shoehorned into the NHL.
I think it's done wonders for him.
Yeah, I think it's been unbelievable for him, right? And it shows that maybe Slavkovsky would have been better served spending a whole year with the Laval Rocket, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody has to play time in the minors because it sets them straight. You're playing with guys who are making like $40,000 a year. You're having to learn how to be an adult without all the eyes on you right away. Now, I disagreed with Seattle, but they kind of kept Shane up in the NHL for a minute and then had that whole thing where like they burnt time where he could have been playing and then they sent him. That was a mistake with how that was handled. But everything else past that, I watched every single point the kid had in the AHL. He stood out. Now, that Coachella team, like they had really good coaches for the AHL. They had coaches that didn't belong in the AHL. They were a very well put together team. So you could see, and then Shane has a fantastic mental health coach or, one of those people that just can kind of help you develop the stuff that your coach can't sit there and like kind of walk you through how to be the best version of yourself all the time. They can on the ice, but the other stuff, not so much. But yeah, I think it was just a complete lack of people looking at what the reality of the situation was. And people are saying bust. The kid's a dick. All of these other pieces. And I had maybe 8 comments I found on my own post about Shane Wright from people saying stuff. And I go, if you watch the film and you're a hockey guy, you'll see like, sure, a bit of an attitude, but he played like a complete game up and down the ice. And I think guys honestly should even get a couple games in the coast to really give them an idea of this is what happens when you don't act like a pro. I think it would do a lot for guys' development, and players are rushed into the NHL too fast. And it's because part of the reason why is GMs draft guys, and a lot of the way that GMs are evaluated by ownership is how well they do with the draft. So they want to try and prove that they're right quick, so that way they can keep their job. I think it does a disservice to the players. But Slav, I'm not taking anything away from him. Him and Shane Wright are both they're exceptional talents. They're both really, really good. But everyone was wrong about what they were saying about Shane Wright, and Shane dropping to 4. I mean, that was a very good draft. The only one you can look at in that situation, maybe New Jersey didn't make the right pick. Outside of that, yeah, you can take Slav first overall every single time, but you have to give Shane Wright his credit because he was also an exceptional talent.
Yeah, I agree. And look, like, when you have drafts of players like Connor McDavid, Austin Matthews, the expectation becomes like, oh, well, we're drafting everybody first. Everybody who is picked first overall should be ready to step in the National Hockey League.
It's
just
not
like
always
that.
the case. Right?
No,
Yeah.
like I look at this year's draft and Matthew Schaefer's a great player. He's missed a ton of time this season. Whoever ends up picking him first overall, I don't think he's not ready for the National Hockey League. Like, go back to Erie for another year. And
You don't seem to think Meese or Higgins are ready either, do you?
no, I don't think Misa or Higgins are ready. Misa's probably the most ready.
Another exceptional status guy like Wright.
Another exceptional status guy like Wright. But, what are you not going to send him back down to Saginaw for another year, right? Like,
Yeah, Higgins isn't ready. Higgins is going to be fantastic, but he's not at all ready. Misa, I think, has some pieces to his game he still needs to work on. Martone is kind of more of the complete player, just up and down the ice, and I like him a lot. Whoever takes him is getting a fantastic player. But you could argue that none of the top 4, the top 6 is kind of like muddy, where we don't know where it's going to land out just yet, and it's probably never going to get any clearer. But none of the guys should be in the NHL next year. But I'm not saying that they're bad, but in terms of development with these guys, yeah, sometimes maybe a guy goes to the OHL and he's obviously way too good to be there, but that's sometimes fine. And especially if it's the little things that he can work on, that it's easier for him to work on in the OHL, like especially the defensive stuff, because everyone hates when they bring in these top talents in the NHL and then like you see them make a bunch of big lapses and they're just not there and they beat down. Then the media just goes on and on and on and on. Most of the media guys couldn't even, get on the ice, but they'll rip into them. Well, guess what? That doesn't really happen in the OHL. They can learn and make the mistakes there. Yep. And there's a lot of agreements between the CHL, NHL, and because of this NCAA ruling that has to be ironed out. So who knows who's going to be playing where in the next couple of years is maybe after your 18-year-old year, maybe you go play one season of NCAA hockey. There's a lot of stuff that has to be played out with that. But all these guys should probably be not playing in the NHL next year.
There's somebody said there's a problem with instant gratification. People don't have rush in the process. People just expect it to be handed them right away, become these players right away, but it takes time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of pieces. It's not just what you see on when the guy has the puck. There's a lot of stuff that happens when they don't have the puck and they're moving around and getting in the right lane, putting themselves in the right position that people don't necessarily see. And it's incredibly hard to learn and adapt to do that stuff properly at the NHL level because 1 or 2 times you're not in the right lane and there's a goal against, and then you look like an idiot, and then you're not going to play as much because there's a guy who's 25 years old or even 30 years old that's going to play on your spot in the lineup that can just do that because he knows. So give guys more time to learn, to know what to do.
Robert Babiak with us here, makes content for Owner's Box, joining us here on Chicago Hockey Radio right now. What do you make of the local team here? Obviously, we spend the first hour of every show covering the Blackhawks. They've been kind of a topic of discussion here. Yeah. Feels like a lot of, you're up in Canada. I know a lot of people in Canada, it seems, are being really harsh on the Chicago Blackhawks franchise, it seems. What's your take here? What needs to be done? I made the argument today that maybe they should be buyers at the trade deadline, and try and bring in some actual pieces here to help insulate Connor Bedard. What's your take on the local team?
Local team, I bet to make the playoffs at the start of the year. Feel real bad about that one.
Really? Oh my
yeah.
Wow.
I just thought that it was a narrative thing. It was silly. I've had some other good futures that's made up for the loss of money I'll have on that one. But my biggest thing is the line combinations. How many different lines does
37 and
Bedard play
58
with?
games.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that doesn't work ever in any situation, period. You don't have players that are that good in the NHL. Connor McDavid can't excel with that many different line combinations. So it just completely derails everything you're trying to work
Kills
on.
chemistry. Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you have to know where guys are going to be on the ice. And it sometimes happens where guys play junior together and they go to the NHL and they just know right away and they get this gel flow. But if they didn't already play together, it's a thing that takes time to work out as to, and it's tendencies on guys too. So if you're on a 2-on-1, what a guy is going to do, that helps a lot. So when you have that many different line combinations, even breaking the puck out becomes something that's difficult. So yeah, and then you have some contracts there. Obviously, there's been the trade bait surrounding your very expensive player who maybe isn't living up to his potential right
Who could
now.
that possibly be?
Yeah, and he's making some comments in the media. I actually agree with his comments.
He's not wrong.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
He's not wrong, but kind of can't do that.
Yeah.
Leverage. Man.
You had a lot of pieces that you've brought in and moved out. You're acquiring things. You've got a lot of good, decent prospects. I don't want to say this is at all similar to when Sidney Crosby came into the league and the Penguins were kind of crappy, because obviously Chicago had a lot of success and then died off, and then a lot of success with the draft, and then that success hasn't really applied to the regular season again yet, because they've done such a good job drafting. So my analysis of the team right now is they really have to make some fundamental and firm choices on the staff. I don't think you get rid of the GM because he's done his job in terms of picking the right players in the draft, but you can't have that many line combinations and expect to win any games. So yeah, it's kind of insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
We feel insane covering the team.
Team's driving me insane.
Trade deadline a week from today. What are you watching? What are you looking for? Is Mikko Rantanen really, that seems to be the bell of the ball right now if the Hurricanes decide to move on from him, but there's other pieces sort of rumored to be out there too. What are you looking at for next week?
And you trade Rantanen again with the owner you have being the way that he is? Will he be like, sure, that's okay? I don't know.
That would not be a good look for them.
It would have, for me personally, it would have to be, at 50% retained again, you're getting Mikko Rantanen for about 2.5, 2.6, which is pretty excellent if you're trying to fit him in there. But the Hurricanes, it seems, envision themselves as a Stanley Cup contender. So are you going to be able to recoup anything that resembles, not Mikko Rantanen, obviously, but quality NHL talent on the roster that will contribute to a playoff
Also
run?
gave up Natchez for nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you can, unless maybe you have a guy who's on a team who's just not happy and the team goes, we got to get him out of here. This isn't going to work. I don't really hear too many rumblings of a really negative situation with a player that you would want to pick up. There's lots of negative situations with players you don't want to pick up that are used to be very good at hockey that aren't now. So yeah, I think the only way you do it is if he says, hey, I'm not re-signing, and they go, can we get something that's close enough that probably leaves us in the same position in the playoffs, that where we can actually feel a little bit better and have maybe a bit more value for next season, and feel a little bit less ripped off. But you would think in leading into the trade that they would have been able to determine with that they would have a high chance of signing him or not. The media could be playing this one up a lot too. So there's a thing, the Chicago, or you know, the same way maybe like the situation in Chicago has been played up a little bit by the media. And the situation in Carolina might be played up a little bit because people need stuff to talk about. But for the trade deadline right now, like I'm a Leaf guy, so like obviously I'm focused on Toronto with their cap space and who they might be able to
You're a
move
Leaf guy.
to
Get
bring
him on
in.
Tassos. He's the Leafs asset.
Yeah, there could be a piece. There could be a piece Toronto could bring in. Retention is going to be the way it's going to get done. So Toronto could get like a third line center brought in, or maybe a spare D man just in case. But yeah, retention something that is such a large play at the NHL trade deadline. It used to be something that really wasn't discussed, but now you have casuals talking about, oh, do they have enough retention spots on said team, or like drawing up a scenario where a star player can end up with the team for a cap hit of like 1.5 million when his salary is 6, and you can really rig the game up to have a very good competitive team out of almost nowhere if you're a bubble team in the playoffs by just trading away all of your draft picks and having other teams retain money for you.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see a lot of third line centers and wingers moved around, but I don't know if you're going to see top end guys. And I'm interested to see what Lou does with the Islanders with Brock Nelson, because that could be a player that teams would like. But obviously Brock hasn't looked super great lately. But yeah, we'll see. The media always tries to play this up because sometimes the trade deadline is just boring and nothing happens.
So you're a big Leafs guy. This isn't necessarily trade deadline related, but offseason related. What do you think happens with Mitch Marner?
I think you have to take him now. Like, I think there was rumblings. I was one of them. I should probably make a video about how I was wrong about Mitch. I said in the offseason they should have probably dealt him, maybe to somewhere like Utah, try and get some pieces back. Now you probably have to sign him and pay him because he's showing, like, you know, at the Four Nations face-off, Canada did what they needed to do, and Mitch played the way he was supposed to play. So people said, well, when the rest of the team in Toronto was doing things the right way, Mitch wasn't able to do that so much in the playoffs last year. Now it's on the flip side again. So, you know, Mitch is showing that he can be Mr. Clutch. Then you have Johnny T too, hometown discount. Maybe we'll see with that. They have some play, but I actually like what they've done year to year with this roster. They've done a very good job. I'm more excited than when Dubas was there, because the moves that they have made, and I said this before, not to pump my own tires, but they signed 3 of the players 2 years ago that I said they should have signed in Bertuzzi, Domi, and Reeves. So I'm going, these are the right choices. Like, if they're going to go with what I think they should do, then I should be confident in it. So I think that in the offseason, the Leafs should be able to get deals done. And it seems like Mitch is just such a Toronto guy. And also he's going to have a kid very soon. So he announced his wife and him are having a baby. I don't know if you move cities when you're just about to have a kid, move away from your family. That might help the situation a bit for Toronto.
There goes
but
the Chicago dream.
yeah, God. Mitch looks sick though. So like, it's really hard to say that he can't play in clutch situations because he clutched a game with a goal and then with a big assist. So
If they aren't able to get him re-signed, what happened? You know what I mean? Is it they're too far apart on the number? Is it like, what do you think he's asking for now? Like, if you're the Maple Leafs, you know, I'm sure Brad Treliving has a number that he doesn't want to go past, and you'd probably assume that that's the Austin Matthews number. But, you know, Mitch Marner on the free agent market would get $14 million plus.
yeah, so the number in Toronto can't be 14. You can't pay him more than Austin Matthews because Austin Matthews is just a better player because the way, you know, the way he's playing right now doesn't show that, but like overall, when Matthews is healthy, he's a better player just by a bit. I shouldn't say this, but the only way it doesn't work out in Toronto with him is if his parents, or his dad more specifically, gets involved, because everyone has seen the clip of him screaming at his son when he was playing rep hockey as a kid, and the comments that his dad has made before about Mitch and his status within the team. I don't know if that's going to be something that could play into it, but like it looked pretty toxic to begin with, from what we've seen in those videos. And I mean, like, sometimes the parent can play a little bit too much of a role in it, but they're Toronto people. So again, I just worry about Mitch thinking he's worth more than he is as a result of kind of that stuff. But he seems to have humbled himself and be a little bit less of the annoyance young guy and more matured into the adult player over the past 2 years, who doesn't say stuff in the media necessarily as the way they have before, and his dad hasn't spouted off recently. So I probably shouldn't speak like this because it is a little bit disrespectful, but that is, I think, how it could be blown up. I don't think it would be anything on the Leaf side outside of him wanting a number that's unrealistic.
It sounds like the Yost Verstappen of hockey. I know in the racing you are, but I get that kind of vibe.
What'd you make of the Four Nations face-off?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Much better
It
than
needed
all
that,
star
like,
shenanigans.
The country needed it so bad. Like Canada was really riled up. So it was definitely good for that. But I think it illustrated a lot of things about how the slight tweaks that the country needed to do with the roster over they got done because Cooper is one of probably the best coaches in NHL history because he was able to figure it out. But it was great. I don't have any interest in watching an All-Star game ever again.
Yeah.
Period.
Amen.
I think it spoke a lot to the strength of U.S. hockey. I think, I really disagreed with booing the anthem, but everyone is, entitled to their own method of protest. But that's the only thing I really didn't like that happened throughout it. But the players played like they actually meant something. It
like
wasn't
playoff
an
games.
all-star game. It wasn't a gimmick. It's probably going to be the only one we ever see because we'll have the World Cup and that stuff and the Olympics, which the Olympics is a whole mess because of the insurance on the players. Not that the NHL doesn't think it's valuable. It's just they don't want the players to get hurt there because they're not insured in that tournament. But I liked it. I think other leagues can look at it. Like you've got the NBA with their just joke of an all-star weekend. I think you could find parallels within other sports that could copy the Four Nations, but it did a lot for hockey. And I was happy with the end result. I also made a crap ton of money. I kept betting first goal scorers, and I'm 4-2 to start the year on first goal scorers. So you shouldn't have a record like that. It's near impossible to win 4 and lose 2. So I won a lot of money on the Four Nations face-off. So that made it extra good for me.
What else? We'll let you go here in a minute. Just what else are you looking at going into the deadline? Are there teams? I see what's going on in Buffalo right now. Reports that the Dylan Cousins thing really puzzles me. Like, why wouldn't you just hang on to a young player like that? You've given up on a bunch of young players.
Sabres have been there, done that.
Been there, done that for sure. I've heard reports that JJ Peterka might be available for the right price. You've got Bowen Byram there, and they're gonna have to pay him a big dollar. I've heard Alex Tuck is available even at the right amount too, which just as a local guy who just clearly cares so much and is right in his prime, just seems like such a mistake. A team like Vancouver to me just seems like is imploding before our eyes. The Demko situation, Brock Besser, and then the whole Elias Pettersson thing. I don't know if you want to dig in on any of those two teams. If you have another team that you're looking at that's this could go either really well for them or really poorly. I don't know.
In Vancouver, I don't know how you don't fire people. So just to be frank, I think some of the contracts that have been given out have been bad. I think you've got yourself in a position where you acquired players and you should have maybe known what you were getting beforehand, and you've had to move pieces back out. And you're probably in a awkward cap situation in the next few years as a result of how your money is tied up. The coaching staff is fantastic. I love the coaching staff there, but from a management standpoint, I think they've kind of done them a bit of a disservice there in Vancouver because it doesn't you kind of sit there and you're going, this dog and pony show again. It's a lot of a distraction. Buffalo, I mean, you can't have this long period of just not able to get over the hump. We've got all these fantastic players. Again, they don't all happen to be on the team at the same time, but you keep getting them. So why isn't that aspect of it working? Buffalo fans have to be really just frustrated with it. I think you can draw a lot of parallels to Buffalo as the same way you could do when Toronto was in the Burke years and at the end of the John Ferguson Jr. years, where you're saying we've drafted some of these players. These are some pretty good guys. Why aren't we making the playoffs? Why do we still suck if we keep saying oh, you've got this prospect, he's going to turn out great. Oh, you've got this high draft pick. Thank God. That should turn things around. And then somehow the needle doesn't move. And with the success of the Buffalo Bills, I think it really puts a little bit more pressure on the Sabres because the Sabres can't they kind of play in a weird rink where it's the out of town play. It's the Las Vegas Raiders where it's what team's in town this weekend? Let's see how many fans we're going to have. You really can't be in that position long term. I know it's not the nicest arena, but it's definitely not terrible. It's not even the hardest one to get to. So yeah, I think they've really played things out pretty far in a shocking way with how much success they've had with drafting players and acquiring guys and then having it just not work. And then they have to move guys out and you're going that's not a player any other team would probably end up having to trade. So what's the issue?
You got anything?
No, actually, I like to hear the story. I like how you call yourself the other Babs. Clearly, a play on Babcock. How did that come along there, or is that just like a comedy? Like,
Yeah. So my buddy started calling me Babs, one of my hockey guys. I'm not gonna throw his name out here, but he started calling me Babs, and then when I was in the Fed, everyone just started going with Babs. You know, it's hard to determine who the first person to say it was because my buddy Edgar's from Latvia, he always calls me Babs, and he was one of the first people that I can remember doing it. But I'm pretty sure one of my buddies who's an agent now, he's the one that started calling me Babs. And then when I went to like make social media handles, I'm sitting there and going like, well, people kind of call me Babs. Like you're trying to come up with like a name. You don't want to like always necessarily put like your first and last in there. It doesn't have the same buzz. And people call me Babs, and I was coaching in the minors at the time when Mike Babcock was still employable. So I go, oh, I'm just the other one. And now I'm the only one who could get a job in hockey. So.
There you go. Yeah, how the tables have turned there. That's a clever username.
Yeah, it's actually quite ironic now. So
that was before the drama went down. That's even better.
yeah, that was Mike Babcock. What a way to go from someone like everyone really respected
legacy away.
to like just light it all on fire. Like I used to think he was a great coach, and now I go like, was he, or did he just have good teams?
I think he was care about a lot of really good Red Wings teams, like Hall of Fame level teams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Babs, one last one here for you before we let you go. You are a part owner of a soccer club.
Oh.
How does that go about? Like, how does that come to fruition?
So I can give you guys a quick rundown of this one. So I was bored. COVID just resulted in people watching a lot of television. So I watched Sunderland Till I Die. And then I watched Welcome to Wrexham. I'm sitting there going like, man, I would love to own part of a team, but I'm just your regular old Canadian guy. Like I'm not from like, royal family or something like that, or my dad's not an actor. I could never like own a team, but I Googled it anyways and found a club in Austria that was doing like crowdfunding. And I messaged the guy that ran that on LinkedIn. I'm like, hey, like, I think this could make an interesting video. Like, would you be okay with me making one? He goes, yeah, like go on the crowdfunding thing and then like make a video. And I did. And it was the best accident ever because it did millions of views after that. Me just talking about the club, and it exploded. And I realized like the club was going to be stuck in the third division of Austria forever. And what I wanted to have happen with the club and what was possible and what they were going for were like completely misaligned. So I parted ways with that club I think it was just about 2 years ago, or maybe a year and a half ago now, and started looking for a club that I could seriously get involved with. Because the amount of money that was driven into the team and the awareness that was built up from the club, from me just making videos about my involvement with this random club in Austria, it was a lot. And it was one of the biggest booms I ever had on social media, was just those videos. So I went and did, it was about a year. I think I looked at 300, 400 clubs and dug in to try and find one across Europe that I could get involved with. That was trying to be competitive, wanted to get promoted, was focusing on player development and not just like trying to stay in the league that we were in. And also was handling the way that people could get involved with it a lot better. So then I came across NK Tabor Sežana, which is a club in Slovenia. They play in the second league, and it's run by former Manchester United scouts and a player agent, Michael, who did work within the NHL and a lot of work in the Premier League. And I just reached out to Michael and said, hey, like, this is what I did for this other club. Like, I think I could do this even better. And I like the business plan you guys have laid out. We had a phone call and then it was done. It was the best meeting I've ever had. It was just like that. We were perfectly aligned. I knew what I wanted and they knew what they wanted. They made an offer and then we had a deal done pretty quick. So we just lost a big cup game, which sucked because we're working to try and we're still alive in the league, but this little town in Slovenia, right on the Italian border, and I have this big connection now. And I'm really hoping that we can work towards having a real threat at getting promoted this year, and then work towards after that trying to compete in some UEFA competitions, because there's some Champions League qualifiers that we can work our way into realistically. And I'm really looking forward to trying to get into that spot. But the reception from the people in that area has been so good. One of the biggest media outlets interviewed me to discuss like, why is this random Canadian guy involved with this little club in this little city that people haven't heard of? What are you doing? And it was just everything aligned perfectly, and I'm so excited. I got the sweater on now. I'm looking forward to getting out to Slovenia. Hopefully
That's
in the
a beautiful
spring.
country. I've
It
been
depends
there.
on
It's
what
beautiful.
position we're going to be in.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, so
Good for you.
one NHL player active from that country.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
So,
Kopitar. That's it.
you know,
yeah.
I'm
He
gonna do
represents
some hockey
himself
stuff
there
when I'm
national
there.
competition. He's the
Yeah.
whole team. Yeah.
That's incredible. Babs,
Yeah,
you're
big accidents led to me getting involved with that.
Hey, give yourself more credit. Yeah.
and now you have Luka and Anze Kopitar
That's
in the
right.
same city.
That's right, yeah.
So two of Slovenia's biggest stars in LA.
All right.
And an owner of a soccer team in Canada. Babs, thanks so much for doing this. Really appreciate you taking the time.
The best Babs.
Yeah, we'd love to get you back on, maybe around the draft or something. Yeah.
Who I think is going to go maybe in the top 5.
Yeah, let
Cool.
us know who your Hawks guy is. But there we go.
All right. That was Robert Babiak from Owner's Box, content creator. His videos are really good, like just really high quality videos. Does a lot. Like I love, the intricacies of minor pro hockey. I'm really into that kind of stuff. How American Hockey League teams work. The American Hockey League is like very close to the NHL, right? And then, the further away you go from the NHL, the more different it gets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
ECHL games, are a lot of fights and a lot of cool jersey promotions. And it's very different. And then you go all the way down to like the Fed and the SP. And it's just like, it's the wild, wild west out there. And, Babs just does some really cool videos about everything, really. He was doing like whatever happened to the last player picked in this draft series.
I
for a
love that
while.
stuff.
It's
That's great.
just super cool.
Yeah.
So the other Babs on social media, if you
Yeah.
guys
Hit him a follow.
Yeah, hit him with a follow.
For sure.
Content's really fun. So thank you for stopping by and helping tee up the trade deadline, which is a week away.
Before we get to NHL stuff, we do have some Hawks things to
Hawks
cover
stuff.
here. It's funny. We were just talking about this guy during the Hawks Hour, Andreas Athanasiou. Why isn't he up here right now? Well, guess what? He is now up here. We've set down Nolan Allen and called up Wyatt Kaiser and Andreas Athanasiou. So one guy sent down, 2 called up. So that's a little curious. I wonder maybe if there's something brewing there, a trade coming, perhaps. I don't know, just speculation. But yeah, I think Athanasiou, I understand that. I think it makes sense. Good to have him up here. I think, play him over guys like Bruin Smith, right? I think that would do wonders. Allen, though, I thought he was playing well. But again, if you're not going to play the guy, then I guess setting him down is a move, and then Kaiser takes his spot. So, yeah, I think we kind of called that one. I
That's
feel
pretty
like.
absurd
Yeah.
that we
give
were
ourselves
just
credit
talking
for
about
that,
it.
right?
Yeah.
We were just talking about why Allen wasn't playing too, and then boom, he sent down. So we're basically insiders here now. I think really more. This is sort of Hawks related. He's no longer a Blackhawk, but I'm seeing here, and somebody said in the chat, you'll never guess who has another season-ending injury. It's Kirby Doc, Mr. Fragile over there. So the best Doc brother scored a goal last night, and that was Colton. And unfortunately for Kirby, he's out for the season. So yeah, sucks for him. But
That's really
I
unfortunate.
think we won
honestly.
the Nazar trade. Yeah.
Yeah, but I like Kirby Doc a lot. It's really hard to get going in a career when you're just constantly
getting hurt.
Yeah.
No, I feel for him too. I like the guy. I hope he works out there in Montreal. I thought originally I think his first season there he was producing pretty well when he was healthy. So unfortunately he's been plagued with injuries, and that's kind of how it was with the Hawks too. So hopefully he can figure it out and stay healthy. But it just hasn't really panned out in the NHL. I don't know for him.
Yeah.
It's too bad because he's a very talented player. Likable kid too. So sucks to see that. I wish for better for him. Yeah.
Do you think Andreas Athanasiou being called up, like this has to lend towards some sort of other moves happening, right?
Yeah, that's the way I see it too. Well, we were talking about Lucas, so I hope it doesn't happen. But I mean, that could be one. You think it'd probably be a 4 if we have the Sioux being called up, right? That would probably make sense. Maybe we get rid of the baggage, get rid of the, the unks. That would be nice. Maybe the Donato deal is coming. We'll see. I don't think this is just a roster move here. This probably lends to this is a precursor to a bigger move that's coming. Probably you would think. I mean, we have a week here, the trade deadline. As we know, a lot of these moves don't necessarily happen on the day of the trade deadline. They happen, the days preceding it, and then by the time the trade deadline shows up and the big TSN show, everything's already happened, and we have nothing that covers. So that's probably what's going to happen again, because that seems to be the theme the last few years, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you mentioned, but Nolan Allen has also been assigned.
That's right.
Assigned to Rockford.
Yeah,
Wyatt Kaiser is also called up as well.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting too, because there was a clip of Anders Sorensen last night after the game in his post-game presser talking about me, because they, it followed the Brody question that we did, the clip that we played earlier, and them talking about, maybe you bring in Nolan Allen back in the lineup. He's like, oh, maybe. And
It's like, they already had their
Yeah.
minds made up there.
Yep.
Somebody said in chat, and I agree with this, at the Nassau Lucas line. Yeah, those two have had chemistry with each other when they played together. So I'd like to see that. They showed at the end of last year and, 22, 23 when he was up here for those short stints. So I think that'd be smart. Right, go out the Nassau line would be fun, right? We always talk about them in pairs. That'd be a good pair. So I think logically that makes sense, but we'll see if that's actually what they do. Yeah.
All right.
That's it for Hawks. We can get to NHL now. How about Caulfield putting Celebrini in a blender last night in overtime? That might be the goal of the season right there.
That was pretty
I
sweet.
love to see that. But no, Celebrini, as we know, has an amazing defensive game. I'm sure nobody will talk about that little play where he was bamboozled.
Yeah, no, I thought that was great. I mean, young player, lot to learn. That's what happens. I still think Celebrini's an incredible talent, but yeah. Stadium series. I mean, I think that's like, expectations for the weekend.
Look forward to that game. It's a good matchup there. They just played each other last night too.
In
The Jackets and the Red Wings. That's
Columbus
right.
gave it to him too.
Yeah.
So did you see the comments from Todd McClellan after the game about Dylan Larkin?
Actually, no, I did not see that.
So I'll read it to you.
Oh, boy.
Let me find this. But I do so they're expecting a lot of people. They're expecting like over 90,000 people.
Oh, it's massive, man. That stadium. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like, first of all, like I think Columbus being like in contention for a
Helps.
playoff spot
Yeah.
for
And
this.
is a poor team. They're right by each other, the wild cards. I mean, look at this.
Yeah.
They're literally in the 1 and 2 spot in the wild cards. They're tied in points. They have the same amount of games played, pretty much identical records. Like this game actually means something outside of just like the event itself. Unlike the Winter Classic game meant nothing. It was a nothing matchup. But this one, it's a playoff style game. You would think. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just cool that they're in a playoff spot right now.
Yeah.
Like nobody expected this.
Yeah,
Obviously the Johnny Gaudreau story in mind. Like this is just really cool. The attendance is going to be really big there. It should be just good for the growth of the game in the state of Ohio in general.
They look, their fan base isn't super large, but like they're really into it. Like they got underrated niche kind of fan base there in Ohio. Like they're really into their sports.
But hockey's like a thing that it's like,
secondary
man,
though,
you watch it, you're there,
Yeah.
like you get the experience and you're hooked.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe there's going to be a lot of new hockey fans, and I'd imagine too, obviously with Ohio,
There's gonna be a lot of Red Wings
there's
fans.
gonna be a lot
Yeah,
of
it's
Red
not
Wings
far
fans there.
from Michigan, so I imagine it'll be probably a 60-40 split or something. I would imagine.
But like the University of Michigan, Ohio State rivalry runs really deep. Like it's just a really cool thing that they're going to do here. And
I wish I could go to that, man. Why did this have to happen during my spring break? It would have been pretty close. I definitely would have gone, but oh well, missed opportunity. I'm sure this will be a much more entertaining outdoor hockey game than the game 2 months ago that we won't talk about.
And look, I do want to see like classic teams. There's two sides of this discussion, right? Because there's a lot of people that aren't Blackhawks fans or original six fans, right? That like look at the Blackhawks getting all these outdoor games and there's a bit of fatigue there, right? And I do see this.
Red Wings have had a lot too.
Yeah, the Red Wings have had a lot
Columbus
too. But like there is part of the NHL that wants to get these games in every market. Florida and Tampa Bay are going to both host outdoor games next year while it's hot there now with, 3 of the last 5 Stanley Cup champions coming from, the state of Florida. I just think it's really cool for the sport. Now, like, let's get it around to some of these other places and do really well with these matchups. Banking on this, the University of Michigan, Ohio State thing, like that is legit. Like that is a legit sports rivalry that exists outside the context of hockey and within the context of college hockey. But obviously it's a college football thing that everybody thinks of. But I just think it's really cool. The games in Texas, the games in, California, like I wouldn't hate if they went back there.
As long as the ice doesn't melt.
Yeah, but like, they know how to do it now. Like
Yeah,
it's not like you're banking on like
just
the
joking.
element. They're not doing it up in Alaska just because it's cold there.
That'd be fun though. That'd be a hell of a winter classic game. Mystery Alaska type of beat. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think it's really fun that they're doing this. Tomorrow should actually be, one of the better outdoor games we've probably seen in a while.
Yeah, because it actually has stakes to it, right? This game means something in terms of the playoff picture. So those are important 2 points on the line. Really 4 points if you include the game last night. That probably helps too, the fact that they had a game right before, so it kind of sets the tone a little bit, right? These guys just played each other, so should really be an intense hockey game for sure. Nice to see Kane and DeBrincat. Hopefully we'll see them cook. Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be cool too.
Yeah.
Patrick Kane getting an outdoor game.
Yeah, he's had a few of those, hasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. It should be fun. Yeah. Still a lot. Again, once again, though, just like the Winter Classic, it's not the only game in the docket, right? We got a bunch of games coming up tomorrow. Not much to look forward to tonight, but yeah, tomorrow we got plenty on the docket. So that they like to do that.
Yeah, I'm just like reading about the Blue Jackets here too. It's like, because they weren't expected to be in this position.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, Ivan Provorov is a UFA after this year, right? And like that's a guy that, he's having a really nice season in Columbus. And, that's a guy that maybe you hang on to instead, right?
Yeah,
maybe you end up buying, like I've been telling.
Just buy it. Yeah, they
just
should
buy.
do that. They have the salary cap where they're one of the few teams that contention who can really be aggressive if they wanted to at this trade deadline, not to worry about LTIR situations or retaining caps. Like they have so much salary cap to make it work. Like why not bolster your team right now? Yeah, like reward your fans for this season, right? I think they've probably been the brightest story in the whole entire NHL this season. Just with like you said, nobody expected anything, so they're playing for more than just the game. So I think everybody would like to see them go on a run here. That'd be nice.
I agree. Sort of a transition out of that, but mentions a Blue Jacket here. So the face-off inside the NHL, it will be returning next season. The players that are confirmed to appear in the series, Columbus Blue Jackets defenseman Zach Werenski and forward Sean Monahan. So two members of the Blue Jackets, which is going to be really cool. Werenski to me is one of the. It's funny because like he was always this good, guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
people didn't realize it until now.
Yeah, people haven't realized it until now. Yeah. Sean Monahan, they actually spelled his name wrong in this article.
But they spelled Werenski wrong too.
Did they?
Yeah.
Oh, they did. Yeah,
wow,
they did.
Fantastic. Where's the editing on this Daily Face?
Oh,
Who wrote
no, we don't want to. No, we're friends with people every day.
They're doing a good job over there.
Yeah. We're friends.
Yeah, you're cool.
So, Monahan, that's going to be really cool. Brady Tkachuk is also Lee's favorite player. You can imagine that Lee will just be watching those excerpts from the show.
Not surprised that he's going to be on that. Yeah.
And Seth Jarvis as well.
He's entertaining.
He's super
got
entertaining.
Yeah.
Who else would you want to see on it?
Oh man. I mean, who? Let's see. I mean, even though Bedard, but like I would say maybe give him some time before you put him on there. Geez. I mean, they've done Matthew yet? I mean, they're doing Brady.
They did Matthew.
They did
last
Matthew
year.
last year, right? Yeah.
How about Sidney
they've
Crosby?
done Pasta already. Yeah, Crosby, Davo. Even though he's got personality of toast, I'd still like to see it. Just what his routines like, more behind the scenes of how the best player operates. McCarr-McKinnon, they've done them.
So last year was Nylander, Pasternak, Philip Forsberg, Jack Eichel, Matthew Tkachuk, Jeremy Swayman, Gabe Landeskog, Quinn Hughes, Jacob Trouba, Connor McDavid, Zach Hyman, and Draisaitl.
Or maybe one of the Hugheses. They did Quinn, you said. So maybe see Jack Hughes.
I want Sid in this.
Yeah,
you got to do this with
Ovi.
Sid.
I haven't done Ovi.
Ovi.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Kaner. Showtime.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah. JT Miller.
Yeah, he's been through a lot. Elias Pettersson, no, he's definitely not doing that right now.
No.
Yeah, no, he has no interest. Cole Caulfield, I'm a big fan of Caulfield.
Caulfield would be
a fun one. He seems like a fun guy to follow. Malkin, another guy, a legend. Any guy like that, yeah, I would say. Mm-hmm.
Here was the quote from Todd McClellan yesterday on the play of Captain Dylan Larkin. I can't beat around the bush. He was missing. He's a big boy. He can handle hearing that. He's going to hear it from me. Just a lot of mishandles, unsure plays that he usually makes. I'd like to think that the Four Nations is so far past us already. We've had enough rest. I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm not even going to go there. We're playing big games. We need our big players to play big games, and we'll need more from not only him, but some others.
Well, throwing the captain on the bus a little bit there.
Yep.
Well, fair enough. Maybe maybe that's strategic, right? Fire him up, use his motivation, right? See if Larkin responds the right way.
Yeah.
Like he was so good in that Four Nations. So, I mean, that could be. You have to think some of those players. It's like some of it is probably a good thing, right? To play some hockey like that during the break, maybe it kind of energized them. But others, you think it probably took a toll a little bit, right? Yeah.
You have to think that like. For some of the guys, like, Dylan Larkin, I think, has played in like 6 playoff games in his career.
Yeah, he's not used to that type of game.
Brady Tkachuk has played in 0.
Yeah.
Like you'd have to think that, if you're the Ottawa Senators, you're probably a little upset that Brady Tkachuk isn't in your lineup.
But like he got that experience that he hasn't had yet in his career, that might be more valuable than missing a few games.
Yeah,
although,
that hunger.
Yeah, although where they're at the standings, though, they got to get there first, right? So, it doesn't really mean much if you're not in that position to begin with. And, they're 4 points out right now, so they gotta get it back together. They lost 5 in a row. Jeez, definitely missing them.
May want to give him a taste at trying it somewhere else, honestly.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, woof.
Yeah, jeez. Somebody in chat is unrelated, but somebody in chat said it could be the FNSU call could be just because Nick Foligno's out, so I'll fill a spot there. So it might not necessarily be a trade coming, but we'll see. I thought that was day to day though, so I don't know if that's. Anyway, we'll see. That's a random thought.
All right. I don't really have much else here. We're kind of up against the clock.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the game of the night's probably your original 6 match up there, Maple Leafs Rags.
Yeah.
Actually, all the games are actually pretty good. Kings Stars, Wild Avalanche. So maybe Stadium Series score prediction. I mean, Blue Jackets won 5-2 last night. I don't know if they're going to do it again. I'd say the Red Wings probably respond. I will say 4-3 and it goes to a shootout. Patrick Kane shootout winner. There you go.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, that'd be
good. I'm all over that, dude.
Kind of like the Wings Leafs Winter Classic in Michigan Stadium back in 2014. That went to a shootout. Probably, I'd still say it might be the best outdoor game ever for the NHL.
Yeah,
that was a great one. That was a classic. Yeah,
it was good. It was the coldest I've ever been in my life.
NHL needs another. Like, when was the last good outdoor hockey game in the NHL? Like, I guess the one last year, the other Stadium Series game, the Rangers and the Rangers and the Islanders? That was a good one. Like Panarin had the OT winner. That was a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. These games don't really do it for me anymore.
I feel like there's the argument where it's like, if you want these games to mean something, there should only be one outdoor game. Like, the Stadium Series is cool at first, but I feel like it's kind of, I don't know, lost its luster a little bit. Maybe we just have to do the Winter Classic, so kind of revive that game a little bit. But I'm actually looking forward to this game tomorrow. I think it could be a good one. Yeah.
All right. Did you see the 2 McDonald's in Canada that they renamed
it to McDavid's? Yeah, fair enough. Funny. Yeah, the Mick. Mick loving it. Mick Davo. Very nice.
Also, a couple of fun notes here. Clayton Keller has 9 points in 4 games since being left off Team USA for the Four Nations face-off.
That sounds about right.
And you know who leads the NHL in points since the return of hockey from the Four Nations face-off?
I couldn't even guess.
Matvei Michkov.
Really?
Yep.
I would never have guessed that. Well, hopefully, he's coming for you, celebrating. You better check your mirrors there, buddy. He's going to take your call there. I give it to Wade Hudson before any of them, though.
Yeah, the Calder race is going to be exciting and down to the wire.
Definitely a 3-horse race there. Maybe even you could throw Dustin Wolf in there too. 4 horsemen there.
Yeah,
there
agreed.
You go. Anybody but Celebrini. Boom.
All right, that's going to do it from us here today. Enjoy a nice weekend of hockey, more so than Alex Nedeljkovic enjoyed getting pulled last night. That was the funniest clip I've seen in a long time. So enjoy all the hockey this weekend. It should be a lot of fun. You'll hear from us after late night tomorrow again, another 9 o'clock start, which is brutal on a Saturday night.
Yeah, these West Coast games, man, Jesus.
At least we're not live streaming the game. And yeah, so you'll hear from us post-game show against the Ducks on Saturday. Nothing from us on Sunday. Back at it on the show on Monday. And then they play the Kings that same night. And and then we got the live show next week.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, Kalamazoo. We're going
to Kalamazoo on Sunday. Yes, we got that late night game tomorrow. And then we got to get up pretty early to get over there. So
yikes.
Yeah, and we got to do the post-game show, another midnight post-game show for us. So
yikes.
We will be there.
Oh, time to wrap it up here. All right, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter and whatever. Lee's going to get mad if I don't say Twitter. Leave a 5-star rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Helps us out a lot. Tell a friend about this show. Share our clips on your Instagram stories. Tag us. RSVP link for Midwest Coast Brewing is in the description of this episode. So if you decide anytime between now and next Wednesday that you want to come, just fill it out and we'll be happy to see you there. It should be a ton of fun. Thanks to Robert Babiak again for stopping by the show and helping us out, fill out some time in the National Hockey League Hour. He's a beauty and really good at what he does. And we will see everybody on Monday. Peace out.